Superstar Joe Barnes, quarterback, Montreal Alouettes. His friends call him Joe Willie. Others call him the enemy, like the Edmonton Eskimos, who watched Joe Willie romp here for over 79 yards. Running is Joe Barnes' way in football. He did it in high school at Texas Tech, the Gator Bowl, briefly with the Chicago Bears, and now this undefeated season at the controls of the Montreal Alouettes. Barnes has led the Als to undisputed possession of first place in the CFL East. 7 wins, no losses, coupled with the best defense in the league. Nobody knows better than Argo coach Leo Cahill that if you stop Barnes, you close down the Alouettes.
There's no question about that, Tom. Barnes is the secret to their attack. He's the catalyst to their offensive unit. We found out that he's most effective when he gets outside of the contain and has the option of running or throwing. And we feel that if we can make him pull up behind the offensive tackle and throw from there, that we've got a better chance to work with him. And you know, that's their offense in a total. As far as their defense is concerned, if you haven't scored many touchdowns against them, we got to move the ball on them.
Tonight, live from Olympic Stadium in Montreal, the Toronto Argonauts versus the Montreal Alouettes.
CBC presents Canadian Professional Football, brought to you by Canadian Pacific, working for Canadians in resource development, manufacturing, and transportation. KTEL International, specialists in household and leisure time products. The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Only the athletes are closer to the action.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Tom McKee. This weekend, the Canadian Football League went over the 1 million mark again in season attendance. That figure will balloon by over 70,000 here at Olympic Stadium tonight. Just why is this Montreal Alouette team so fantastically popular with the fans? Why do you come out for every game?
Well, defense is fantastic. Offense is doing pretty good with Joe Barnes right now. Mind you, now with the injuries to O'Leary and Hopkins, could be a slowdown.
You guys are not season ticket subscribers, are you?
No, unfortunately not.
You come for every game?
Yes, we have.
And pay separately for each and every game. That's what I call a true football fan. There's no doubt about that. I better get out of this seat right now because, quite frankly, I didn't pay for it. There are 2 other guys, Don Chevrier and Russ Jackson. They didn't pay for their seats either, but we'll be joining them for the play-by-play of tonight's game in just a moment.
Expecting a crowd of 70,000 here tonight at the Olympic Stadium as the Argonauts make their first ever appearance in this beautiful football and baseball park, Russ. And as Leo Cahill said, the man they've got to stop is Joe Barnes, the Alouette quarterback. He was shaken up pretty badly in a game in Edmonton, their last start, and no doubt the Argonauts will be pretty physical about their treatment of Barnes, too.
Well, the only time that they played them, they certainly treated him that way, and a lot of the question this year has been how physical Joe Barnes, how physical can he be? And in this game, when he got away here scrambling and was set up at the line of scrimmage by the Edmonton front 4, and then Potter, number 30, came in and hit him real solid, the small of the back. He went down for a long time and lay on the ground. I know the people who watched that ball game saw him lay on the ground for maybe 5 minutes, but he came back after and he did a good job.
A couple of ex-Calgary Stampeders in this game, 1 for each team. Here is Rudy Linterman obtained in a 2-for-1 trade with Calgary for Chandler and Wayne Allison. And starting in the backfield on the right for the Montreal Alouettes, a former starting veteran running back for the Stampeders, Rick Galbus, a man described by head coach Marv Levy as my kind of football player as a running back. Galbus, a strong runner, and more particularly, Russ, a very strong blocker as well.
Well, certainly I think this is one of the things that he picks up. Hopkins was a good blocker, but I think Galbus is the one that really does the job.
Well, the Argonauts have got the Georgia connection. Mike Wilson and Joel Parrish, and Tom McKee talks to them.
56, Mike Wilson, you are used to the running game, grew up on it in U.S. college football. What's it like in Canada?
Well, you know, we're doing a lot of running, you know, passing and everything, and I don't know, it's just kind of hard to get used to the passing game, you know, where we didn't do that much in, back home, and I don't know, it's just a big deal, you know, just learning how to pass protect.
You're on the halfway mark of your first season. Do you like it?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and, you know, football's football, and it's just football.
Joel Parrish, we were talking to the coach, and he said that offensively, he doesn't know whether you can crack through this strong Montreal defense or not.
Well, I think they got Gordy Judges back tonight, and that's going to make a big difference in their defensive play. They're a lot tougher up front. But we've been able to move the ball on them. It's just bad mistakes we make during the game that have, turned out the way we have this year.
Okay, Russ and Don, there you have them. 12 feet, 8 inches, over a quarter of a ton, the Georgia connection.
And I'll tell you, Parrish has been injured in recent games. He's played well, but Mike Wilson, even in a losing 30-0 cause against the BC Lions, drew all kinds of new respect from veteran observers in the CFL. The Alouettes have not lost a game. The Toronto Argonauts wondering if they'll ever win one again, having been crushed by the BC Lions, having had time to consider the aspects that caused that defeat, and they are fired up here to meet the Alouettes in Montreal tonight. But they must contend, Russ, with a crowd here that, as Marv Levy says, can do nothing but help Montreal every time they play.
Well, having played in the CFL for 12 years myself, I know what a crowd can do for you, and certainly with close to 70,000 fans here rooting for the Montreal Alouettes to possibly set a new record, a modern time record, and having 8 straight wins to start a season. They're tied now with the Edmonton Eskimos 61 team. They're really going to be vociferous tonight.
All right, ready now for the national anthem sung by Monsieur Roger Doucette. With the Montreal kickoff in just a moment. The Alouettes approach the halfway mark, looking for a perfect record of 8-0. They're 7-0 right now. Kelvin Kirk is back for Toronto for Sweet's kickoff, along with this man, Paul Bennett, number 20. Kirk wears number 14 on the right side of your screen. Argo's 2-5. Montreal 7-0. A big one, and it's underway at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Paul Bennett. Up to the 26-yard line. Gabriel Gregoire made the tackle for Montreal after Bennett brought it back 21.
First down, Argonauts 10.
The Argonauts quarterback by their starter in most games this year, their number 1 man, Chucky Lee, who has the best passing completion record in the CFL East.
Quarterback Lee.
Pass thrown badly for number 30, Mike Eben, making his comeback with Toronto tonight, having been cut by the Argonauts and being cut by the Hamilton Tiger Cats. He was guaranteed a full season. Tony Hill was hurt. He's back, and Mike Eben is glad to be in Argo again.
Mike, I guess the obvious question is, as a professional athlete, you go from one uniform to another. What goes on in your own mind in a situation like this?
Well, the circumstances have to be considered, and this situation was quite unique, I suppose, and my desire to play a little bit more ball and the fact that I felt quite certain that Leo personally wanted me back had a lot to do with my decision to return.
I guess there was a time there when you didn't think you'd ever play football again.
Yes, there certainly was a time. I've played 9 years, and I realize that the time will come soon, but I wasn't quite prepared yet.
Well, I hope you have a good game.
Thank you.
Mike Eben, and while he talked, we saw Kirk catch that pass, that little swing screen from Chuck Ely, and then a couple of flags, a face guard against Carl Cornell. Referee Bill Dell with the call.
Well, Don, quite early in a ball game, we find out how Chuck Ely's going to go, and here he's trying a little screen out to his wide receiver, and Carl Cornell, who'd come over from the middle linebacker spot, certainly got him by the face mask and gave the Toronto Argonauts a first down. But the first pass that Chuck tried to get to, Mike Eben, number 30, and wearing number 30 rather than number 9, was rather poorly thrown, and if Chuck doesn't get off to a good start, sometimes it bothers him.
He's only been picked off 3 times by opponents' interceptions this year. First down it is. This is Donnie McGraw up near the 44-yard line, getting about 4. Glenn Weir, the defensive right tackle, stopped him for Montreal. It's going to be second down and 6 for the Argonauts. There's Glenn Weir, number 64. He and Gordon Judges have anchored that defensive line. Judges will perhaps see some service today. And here's how the Argonauts have done so far in 1977. They like to throw it. Montreal likes to run it, especially with Joe Barnes. Right now, Chuck Ely. He's got a strike out to Peter Mueller. Mueller to the 53 will have another Toronto first down. The first earned on their own, the other by penalty. Carl Cornell and Wally Bono combining to make the stops.
Well, the Toronto Argonauts have had 2 weeks since their last ball game, and starting with a bit of a new formation now with one man in the backfield, what you might call an ace backfield, Neil Lumsden, spreading the defense out and getting him in zone. And with Neil Lumsden going out the backfield into the flat, Peter Mueller just delayed over the middle, and Chuck dropped it to him for the first down.
The Argos have not beaten the Alouettes, regular or preseason, so far in 77. There's Rudy Linterman, number 8, spreading out. Neil Lumsden with the ball. And Lumsden close to another Toronto first down at the 46-yard line. Randy Rhino, the safety, cracked him down. The gain close enough to bring about a measurement.
Well, good blocking on the right side as Neil Lumsden takes the ball to the outside. They collapse that entire left side of the Montreal defense to the inside, and Lumsden took it to the outside. And good to see Neil bending down as he's going through that line, because he did have a lot of problems last year running high, certainly being the size he was, 230 pounds in college ball. He had the opportunity to run high, and nobody could hurt him. But when you run high in this league, they're just as big as you, if not bigger, and you get to cough up the ball a little bit. And so he's almost had the first down.
He missed the first down by a foot. This is second down. Lumsden completes the first down series inside the 45. The advance 3 to the 43-yard line. So the Argonauts on the march early with 3 minutes gone on the scoreless first quarter at the Olympic Stadium. We're back with you from the beautiful Olympic Stadium in Montreal, now into its second year, and the second year of home games for the Alouettes, who've drawn phenomenally well and will likely reach 500,000 at the current rate for 1977. First down, Toronto. Donnie McGraw gets maybe a yard, nothing more. Glenn Weir again with the Montreal tackle. It's going to be second down and virtually still 10 to go for Toronto. That's McGraw's performance. He fought off Richard Holmes after John Harvey left the Argonauts and won the starting running back spot alongside of Neil Lumsden. Mike Eben, number 30, goes right. Kelvin Kirk, 14. Linterman, 8 to the left side. Linterman in the slot. Chuck Ely scrambling. First down, but there's a penalty marker down on the field.
Chuck Ely. Penalty marker.
Ely got away from some pretty good pursuit, Russ.
Well, Carl Cornell, the middle linebacker, came in here now, and number 66, Davis, came in there, Marvin Davis, and instead of going for the quarterback, threw his arms up, and Ely just gave him a little deke and went to the outside on him, and he came downfield here, and the flag had been thrown a long time before Ely got here, so we're not sure of what the penalty might be.
It was holding call against Montreal, of course declined by Toronto, and an Alouette player is down as the aftermath of that ramble by Chuck Ely, who has run for close to 250 yards now in the 1977 season. That's Randy Rhino, and he's all right getting up now and makes his way here to the side of the stadium to the Alouette bench. No score with 4 minutes gone, but the Argonauts have been on the march ever since the opening kickoff. Aided by a couple of penalties, one decline. They are now at the 22-yard line of the Alouettes for the first down. Lumsden first into the back of his blockers, and then he found some room, was stopped by Marvin Davis. Carl Cornell in the area, and may have picked up about 4.
Well, there's Mark Bragagnola, number 24 from the varsity, Toronto varsity, and certainly you see his statistics. He's been used quite frequently for a rookie this year, with Neil Lumsden hurting a bit and Toronto having some problems with that running back situation. They have used both Mark and Neil quite frequently together in the backfield.
2nd and 6. Chasing Ely, and he unloads, almost intercepted. No good. John Beaton had his hands on it. He couldn't bring it down.
Well, there's Chuck Ely scrambling to the left, and again, the Montreal front four put a pretty good rush on him, forcing him out of that pocket. And certainly this should be an indication again that this Montreal defense is going to be tough to crack tonight in terms of getting those touchdowns on the board. They bend a little, but they don't break when they get down near the goal line, as we see Chuck leaving the field.
And oncoming is Zenon Andrusician for a field goal attempt. He is 11 for 20 on the year. His opponent tonight, Don Sweet, has been good on 17 of 21. So the Alouettes have a big edge in that department. This one straight away from the 25.
Don, I would say Don Sweet is the up-and-coming field goal kicker in this league.
Right now, the man on the spotlight is the Z, because he puts the Argonauts on top with that 25-yarder, 3-0 here. 5.5 minutes into the first quarter at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. A good drive for Toronto, finally contained by the Montreal defenders around the 20-yard line, and they go on top by 3. And we're going to see Montreal get their hands on the ball now. They are going to accept a starting point of the 35-yard line, declining a kickoff. And up they come, guided by the most dangerous running quarterback in the country, Joe Barnes.
And this crowd is rising to the occasion.
Stand him on his head. Jim Marshall cut him down, and Ron Fox came in to pound him. The gain is about 8. It'll be 2nd down and 2.
Well, both backs going to the right now as Barnes goes to the right with them, but he rolls a little deeper this time. Doesn't roll completely to the outside. Delarivu started as the wing back on the right side. Pretended he's blocking Corrigal and then delayed back over the middle. It's more like a middle screen going against the grain.
That is Rick Galbo's plunging for what appears to be a first down of the 45. Galbo's and Ian Mufford, the starting running backs for Montreal. John O'Leary, their sensational rookie from Nebraska, has a Charlie horse problem and will be used sparingly, if at all. And there he is, Mike Eden, back with the Toronto Argonauts, taking the long way around from Hamilton and a few games of inactivity.
That's not too long. I don't think you could go to another club and not travel any fewer miles.
It's just not the route that Mike had chosen.
No.
His number 9, of course, taken. He wears number 30. Barnes to Brock Ainsley. And it could be another Montreal first down. Eric Harris covering for Toronto, their cornerback, number 16.
Well, again, we're seeing the key to this Montreal offense, and as Leo Cahill said at the opening of the show when talking with Tom McKee, you must keep Barnes inside, and so far, he's shown that ability to get outside, and more importantly, the Montreal offensive line and their wingbacks have been able to protect him, but he is throwing that ball quickly. He's not scrambling with it, he's getting rid of it.
And showing no ill effects from that tremendous shot from Dale Potter in the last game in Edmonton. He goes to Rick Galbo. 6 yards, maybe 7, near the 47-yard line of Toronto. So the Alouettes, just as the Argos before them, look impressive here on their first series of plays. Wayne Smith, the defensive end, made the containment that time for Toronto. Smith with Corrigal at the ends, Liggins and Comet Burley as the 2 defensive tackles. Ron Fox, Ray Nettles, and Richard Lewis are the 3 Toronto linebackers. The linebacker came in there and got his hands up to bat that Joe Barnes pass away. It's going to be 3rd down, Montreal, when play resumes here at the Olympic Stadium with the Argonauts in front 3-0. Well, tomorrow night, Tom McKee and I will be joining Tony Kubek at Exhibition Stadium for the Boston Red Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays. Ferguson Jenkins against Dave LeManchuk should be a great game. Watch it here on Major League Baseball 77 on CBC. Right now, watch Sonny Wade as the Montreal punter pounding one toward the Argonaut 10-yard line. Rudy Linterman going nowhere. Good coverage by Montreal. A 38-yard kick. The run back limited to only 3 yards.
Rudy Linterman now, who's had a couple of weeks to learn this Argonaut offense, and along with Mike Eben, number 30, are 2 of the top 5 active receivers in the top 12 in CFL history in pass receiving. So certainly they have some veteran receivers in there now with Mike Eben and Rudy Linterman, whereas at the beginning of the year, starting with Dennis Franklin out there and either Tony Morrow or Hill in there as that wingback, they certainly have more rookies than they did veterans.
Lewis Cook, who made that punishing tackle on Rudy Linterman, has a pain on the back, obviously, or the side, as he now comes across to the Montreal bench. The Argonauts will start. They've got Stu Francis, who was injured earlier, back at center for the first time, ahead of Chuck Ely for first down. That is Quick Draw McGraw. No, Neil Lumsden getting out there across the 15-yard line. Randy Rhino stopped him.
Well, on the replay, we see them coming down now. We see number 8 blocking on Cornell. Lumsden trying to come in on Cornell, and they tried to collapse that side of the line. Didn't do that good a job, but Neil came in there. I should say McGraw came in there for 5 yards.
Ely on 2nd and 5. Loops it along the sidelines out of bounds. Peter Mueller was there along with Calvin Kirk. Neither could get his hands on the ball. And the Alouettes have done their job. They have contained the Argonauts on 3rd down and 5. They'll be punting. And back are Randy Rhino, 21, and Dickie Harris, number 18, stationed near the Montreal 50. And Resition will kick from near the 5.
It's interesting, Don, that we have back here without Johnny Rogers, number 18, Dickie Harris, who has gained over 1,000 yards in punt returns in the CFL over the last 2 years, and Randy Rhino, who led the old World Football League in punt returns.
Looks like a no yards call against the Toronto Argonauts coverage team. Rick Sovieta got inside the 5-yard restraining zone. And that'll add on to the Montreal gain to set up this series of downs.
Well, Dickie Harris, who, as I say, has gained 1,000 yards in punt returns each year of the last 2 years, we see here certainly a good call with about a 3-yard difference there rather than 5 between the two opposition uniforms.
In Toronto, as Mike Eben plays catch, Carlton Fisk has hit a grand slam home run in the 1st inning, and the Red Sox lead the Blue Jays 5-0 tonight after 2. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll have the 4th game in that series for you on CBC. Ian Mofford shooting through was Ray Nettles, the middle linebacker. And that'll cost Mofford of the Alouettes 5 yards.
Wow, Montreal trying a bit of a delay play up the middle there, and Nettles was coming on a blitz situation right from the time the ball was snapped, and Mofford ran right into him.
As Leo Cahill looking very dapper in his beige suit tonight at the Olympic Stadium. You saw Lewis Cook getting attention in the rib area a minute ago at the sideline for Montreal. Della Rive in motion left. runs into a brick wall named Ray Nettles. 2 tackles in a row for Nettles and 2 losses in a row for the Alouettes. So the player down over on the 50-yard line. He's getting up now. It was number 67, Dan Yoakum.
Well, as Barnes come back here to pass now, he gets pretty good pressure from number 52. Comet Burley comes in there, number 62. And then Nettles just shadowing the quarterback as he goes out, trying to go to the right to find a pass receiver, but good coverage downfield by the defensive backs allowed Nettles to come on and make the tackle, and again, throw them for his second successive loss.
There's Dan Yoakum, who was up, and on the advice of his teammate Tony Proudfoot, went back down again to receive attention from the Montreal training staff. There's Ray Nettles accepting congratulations all around after 2 outstanding defensive plays.
There's Granny Liggins back again after the problems he's had with the groin, and has only been able to play 1 game this year. And certainly I know that he's glad that it's not a warm night out there tonight, because when you haven't played for some time, it certainly creates a problem if it's very warm. But there's number 67, Dan Yoakum, and he looks like he'll be back in there again.
He's too tall for that trainer to get his chin strap off. Bennett's back, along with Rudy Linterman at the 5-yard line for Sonny Wade's punt, averaging 38 just on the 1 tonight. His average about 5 yards better than that on the season. Good hang time. The Alouettes are in too close, though. No yards called as Bennett receives the punt.
Well, number 9, Jerry Detilio, I'm sure, who's captain these special teams, was in there, and we remember him one night when he threw that touchdown pass after getting that bad center in a ball game that the Alouettes won.
No yards. We'll move it up after a 43-yard punt by Sonny Wade. That penalty will cut into it. 15 yards this year. It comes up to the 20, and the Argonauts will start from there in possession of a 3-0 lead with 3 minutes and 43 seconds to play in the first quarter.
No yards against Montreal. 1st and 10, Toronto.
Neil Lumsden to the 25 has got a gain of 5, halfway to a first down. There's Wally Bono, the linebacker, pinning him down, number 39.
Harry A. Beaton.
The Argos losing 16-10 in their only previous regular season meeting in 1977 against the Alouettes.
2nd and 5, Toronto.
As they say at the racetrack, he threw a shoe. Neil Lumsden.
I tell you, he's a big hoss, too.
He is. Ready to go now, number 32, as is Chuck Ely on 2nd down. Intercepted, no! Vernon Perry did a juggling act with that football and is sitting there in disbelief that he failed to make the pickoff. 2:47 left in the first quarter. We'll be right back. This is Marv Levy, the man who has directed his team to 7 consecutive CFL victories. Looking for the 8th at the halfway mark of the season tonight. They trail 3-0.
Don, he's done a great job of substituting for people who've been hurt, because he's had as many injuries as all the other clubs, but he's just come up with the right replacements at the right time.
Not a good kick by Andrusician. It sails out of bounds around the 52-yard line between the 51 and the 52.
Zena not too happy with himself walking off the field.
But he does have the only points of this game. A field goal from 25 yards away. That a 34-yarder by Andrusician.
Don, I was mentioning Marv Levy's success in making the replacements, and we look at the team, and he's actually playing with 11 imports tonight, because 2 of them are playing as backups, Huber and Price, and then he has got O'Leary starting, and they're all dressed.
Barnes throws it through the hands of Rick Galbos, who was in position to make the catch but lost his balance at the time. It'll be 2nd and 10 Montreal. 2 minutes and 7 seconds left in the first quarter now. Yesterday, Ottawa defeated Hamilton 33-18 to take 2nd place alone. So Toronto is aiming for a 2nd place tie if they can win tonight. If Montreal wins, well, they can almost start printing tickets for that final Eastern Conference playoff game, Russ.
It certainly takes the race away from the Eastern Conference, something different than what they've got going out west with 3 teams 2 points apart.
Archie Gray, a newcomer, is the wide receiver left for Montreal, number 31. And the ball will was thrown for Dalla Riva, but nowhere really near him, as Barnes was dumped to the seat of his pants.
Well, a good rush by number 79, Jim Corrigal, and number 62, Ecomet Burley from that left defensive side of the Toronto front four. And actually, I believe that Barnes' arm was touched as he delivered that ball, attempting to throw it to Dalla Riva.
There's Archie Gray. He's so new they haven't got his name on his back yet. Number 31. He was with the Alouettes earlier, was cut, and now has come back to be their wide receiver tonight.
Well, he was in the LA camp, I think, after leaving Montreal, and had just come back from the Rams camp.
Bennett with Linterman down on the 10-yard line for Sonny Wade's third punt of the night. A beauty. This time the Alouettes give him yards, and Linterman is taken down around the 14. Wayne Smith, the big defensive end for the Argonauts, at the bench. He apparently has injured his left knee, and they'll look at that one now. Put some ice on it.
Well, he's had some problems with that knee. He's missed parts of a couple of ball games this year with leg problems, and certainly when you have to keep playing and after a 2-week layoff, you get something early in a ball game, it certainly has to concern you.
McGraw cut down, not before he picked up 5 at the 19 by John Beaton.
Donnie McGraw, touché par Beaton.
48 seconds remaining in the opening quarter.
Well, from ground level, we see the little pitch out to McGraw, and Lumsden trying to get up in front of him along with the offensive line. Nick Bastaya, number 65. But a good play with Beaton coming up from the inside safety spot and cutting his legs out from underneath him, limiting it to 5 yards.
Putting Chuck Ely in the sack.
Guess who's back?
Welcome, Chuck.
Gordon Judges, who's had a lot of problems with his knees this year, certainly beat number 54, Joel Parrish, there, and just came right in on Chuck Ely and just wrestled him to the ground. And I know Chuck felt that one as he threw him down. And Judges certainly is going to add something to this defensive line, and when we did our game here before, we felt that maybe he was at the end of his career because he came in for about 2 plays and hurt his knee again after being out for 2 or 3 ball games. But here he is back again and just doing the same old thing.
Andrusician about 11 yards below his average, got a good one away this time. Out across center field, down to the 50-yard line to Randy Rhino. And a good tackle, a first tackle by Al McLean, number 52, holds him to the 54-yard line after a 50-yard punt by Andrusician. Time has run out on the scoreboard here in the first quarter. The only scoring play, a 25-yard field goal by Andrusician of Toronto. And apart from that, the play fairly even along the way. And at the end of the first quarter, the score is Toronto 3, Montreal nothing. A plan ready for the Toronto Argonauts in the second quarter as the Alouettes start off at their own 54-yard line. Cahill's Argos in front, 3-0. And they're not happy with the look of that football. But only in baseball, the pitcher complained or the catcher complained and they changed the ball.
Here's the batter. It's the center. There's dirt on the screen.
Joe Barnes intercepted. Harris, the flag is thrown. Harris to the line of scrimmage to 54.
La passe à l'endroit de Carlos, intercepté par
That was Marshall, number 15, but the penalty marker may have a bearing on who gets the ball. Bill Dell trying to sort this out now with players of both teams milling around him. Liggins and Nettles there for Toronto. Roughing both ways.
Well, from the end zone, we see Barnes trying to roll to his left here. And what the Toronto defensive secondary is doing quite well tonight is they're coming up and taking those short receivers away. Marshall had come up and taken the outside receiver Ainsley away, and then when Barnes couldn't throw the ball originally, he threw it when he shouldn't have thrown it. He was right there to make the interception, but they're playing them tight, and I think Barnes is going to have to try and break somebody deep pretty soon in this ball game to force that secondary to play a little looser when he gets outside.
Pat Bonnet and Jim Corrigal were roughing it up, and they offset each other with penalties. So the play stands for Montreal before the interception.
Now there's Ward Smith sitting on the bench there, certainly showing how hot it is down there.
First down, Montreal.
Well, the secret on this play is that Barnes gets a little more depth in here. He starts to drop straight back, and then he's getting much more depth, and the pass pattern is a lot deeper. We do get good rush from Granny Liggins, whom he eludes, and then he picks up Brock Ainsley downfield. But certainly number 31, the new receiver Archie Gray, had gone a lot deeper on that pass pattern, and I think that's what Montreal's going to have to try and do.
A penalty marker thrown. Could be piling on Ian Mofford. Paul Bennett, I think, came in late with a hit, Russ. He picked up enough for a first down, it appeared, before the infraction. Referee Bill Dell with the signal now.
Yes, it was Bennett, and I like the way that guy plays, though. He's had some penalties this year for Toronto, but he really wants to play football, and he takes some aggressive penalties. We see Mofford after taking that split-T handoff, and there he comes in there getting the call, but he comes out there to play football, and I like his aggressiveness, and I know that's something that's important when you're in there as a rookie.
Another flag is thrown. The ball is overthrown for Dalla Riva.
Well, Dalla Riva had beaten number 27, Lauren Richardson, but I think we're going to get a holding call by the Montreal Alouettes here.
Looked like Pat Bonnet was guilty of that infraction. It is holding Montreal.
Holding contre Montréal.
The Argonaut who was victimized by that holding maneuver was Comet Burley.
First down and 20 yards to go.
So it's going to be first down and 20 to go now, back at the 24-yard line. Montreal still trails 3-0. About 2 minutes gone in the second quarter. Chasing Barnes, and he's got it. Way back at the 36.
Well, again, the credit goes to that defensive secondary that we don't see in the picture. Jimmy Corrigal did a great job of containing number 7, Mike Barnes, then running him down at the sideline when Barnes looked like he might get outside, but he dropped straight back. Has pretty good protection here, but can't find a receiver open, and boy, Corrigal is putting those size 14s down in a hurry as he gets Barnes, and he was just ecstatic after throwing him to the ground, because this is twice now they've moved the Montreal team out of field goal range by throwing them for successive losses.
Well, that's what they knew they had to do, was try to contain number 7. They're doing a good job so far. Barnes going deep, knocked away. Brock Ainsley was beaten to the ball by the Argonaut defender Eric Harris.
Well, Brock Ainsley on the outside to the right here now just heads straight down the field. And number 16, Eric Harris, plays it bump and run. He's watching the receiver as he goes down the field, taking away the inside route. He's not going to let him come to the inside, and then he just runs with them. And then when the receiver shows him the ball's in the air, he looks back, and he was in perfect position to knock that away from number 19, Ainsley.
It is third down and 33 yards to go for Montreal, but within range for Don Sweet. A field goal attempt will come from the 45-yard line. It's good. Don Sweet's 8th in a row ties and we'll be right back. We haven't got the official attendance yet, but it has all the appearances of a 69 to 70,000 crowd here in Montreal, which would break the record of 68,505 the very first time the Alouettes played here in the fall of '76. Ely keeps the ball and picks up 8 yards. Crenell there to meet him for Montreal, along with Glenn Weir. Make it a 7-yard gain. It'll be 2nd down and 3 for Toronto, and a 3-3 tie 4 minutes into the second quarter in a very noisy Olympic Stadium. I don't know how much of that noise is reaching your home receivers, but Russ, as you'll agree, it's deafening right here. That'll be a first down for Mark Braganolo in his first appearance in the offensive backfield for the Argonauts tonight. Former University of Toronto star.
Le porteur de ballon, le numéro 24, Mark Braganolo.
Line of scrimmage is the 48-yard line of Toronto. Shifting sides is Calvin Kirk, number 14. Mike Eben, 30, going to the left side. The pitch out to Donnie McLaughlin, no go. Marvin Davis read him all the way.
Well, now that they've got Gordon Judges in playing that defensive tackle spot, they've moved Marvin Davis, who was playing there and has been playing there through the injuries to Judges, out to that right defensive end spot, because Junior Ayew, as we all know, has been out for the last couple of games, but that has been ably patrolled by number 47, Gabriel Gregoire, who is a young Canadian kid coming along, something like Wayne Smith did.
He played so well in the last game with Edmonton, they gave him the game ball, the Alouettes. 2nd down, a big play for Chuck Ely right here. Here's Zapek blowing by him. Chuck will go with a room to run and falls on his own, but he got a first down at the Montreal 50. Wisely perhaps going down, although it appeared he genuinely stumbled there at the 50.
First down.
Well, I think Ely wanted to get down there. He could see where the first down marker was, and he just wanted to get himself down on the ground where they couldn't punish him. And once you get down on the ground, you can't spear a player. You must go up and just basically touch them.
That is, if you're doing it legally.
If you're doing it legally.
Chuck Ely now 45 yards on the night. Too high for Mike Eben, being pursued by Vernon Perry. Alouettes are making some defensive changes in there. Marvin Davis is coming across to Glenn Weir's spot.
Well, here we have Carl Crenell with the rollout situation. Something that Montreal likes to try and do is bring the middle linebacker in behind the defensive end. The defensive end tries to spread the play out. In that situation, it'd be number 66, Davis, and they try and get the middle linebacker in the hole to pressure the quarterback, which he did quite well because Chuck did not throw the ball very well.
It's 2nd and 10 at the Montreal 50. Intended for newcomer Kerry Smith.
Well, from the end zone, we see Dickie Harris now in good position as he reaches up with that left hand and knocks that ball away from Kerry Smith, who's a newcomer with the Toronto Argonauts. He's a kid that went down into Texas and was on a track scholarship, but plays as a Canadian. He came back to the training camp, and they put him down with the Scarborough Rams with the juniors for a while, and they moved him into the starting lineup tonight.
It's 3rd down. And Ruzishin getting set to punt for the 4th time, nudging the 40-yard mark in his average tonight. This one down to the 6-yard line for Harris. O'Rino. Good run back. Stopped by the kicker, Andrew Zishin, around the 48-yard line. This Montreal crowd very appreciative, roaring with every major achievement the Alouettes make. Right now it's a 3-3 tie in the second quarter. We'll be back in just a moment. First down, Montreal. And reaching out to center field is Rick Galvos, number 34, for a gain of 6. We have athletes in action for you in the NFL and the CFL and the annual North American Flag Football Championship game at Canton, Ohio. That's coming up on Saturday right here on CBC television.
Sur le plaqué, fait sur Galvos.
In there now, number 36 for Montreal. Corrigan off to Barnes, and he's got him again. That's twice now that Jim Corrigan has tracked down Joe Barnes. You'd have to say, Russ, they're doing an effective job on Barnes.
Well, what they're doing, Don, is that they're moving those defensive ends, Jimmy Corrigan and Wayne Smith, number 77 and 79, out wide, and they're putting the linebackers inside. The linebackers on the outside, Fox is playing inside the defensive end, and therefore this is giving the defensive end a good chance to get to the outside without too much pressure from an offensive blocker. And this is how they're getting to him, and this is good strategy because this is the way you keep a quarterback inside. Let the defensive ends try and contain him.
All right, it's 3rd and 8, and here's Sonny Wade to punt. Another great Wade punt to the 10-yard line. Linterman goes down right there. A 49-yarder that time. He lost a yard on the return. That's Archie Gray. Very proud of himself, making a tackle there on Linterman.
First down, Toronto.
Well, Linterman's probably starting to say, I'm getting a little old to do this stuff now. We used to do this when they didn't have any blocking and it wasn't as rough. They had just great coverage coming down there. And before Gray got to Linterman, there must have been 2 or 3 other Alouettes made real good efforts to force him right into Gray.
So the Argonauts will start deep thanks to Gray's coverage of the 9-yard line. The score tied at 3. Just over 6 minutes until halftime. Neil Lumsden. Wally Bono finally ran Lumsden down, but not before he got across the 40-yard line. They ruled his knees touchdown between the 41 and the 42. A 36-yard ramble.
First down, Toronto.
Well, just a straight little handoff to Neil Lumsden, and we just get the good blocking by the center of that line. Stu Francis, Gene Clark, and Joel Parrish just moved Glenn Weir and Gordon Judges to the outside, and there was nothing but daylight for Lumsden.
He's big, he's strong, and he's got a great amount of speed for a man his size. Ely to Peter Mueller. That'll be good for about 7 yards. John Beaton cut him down as the Argonauts in 2 plays moved suddenly from inside their own 10-yard line. Clock now showing 5 minutes of second quarter time remaining. At halftime, we'd like to remind you we'll have highlights of yesterday's 3 games in the CFL. And also, we'll be having a feature on Gene Gaines and how the Montreal fans gave him a fantastic tribute last month. Intercepted by John Beaton. There is a penalty marker down, but I think it came after the interception.
Well, the flag was thrown after the interception, Don, but I'm not sure whether it's a clipping call or what, but it certainly was thrown well downfield from where the ball actually was. But again, Chuck has been having some problems throwing that ball tonight. He hasn't been on target very much, and this time he overthrew the intended receiver right into the defensive ball player's hands.
It is a clip. Number 76, Zapek of Montreal.
clipping against Montreal.
Well, Chuck Ely going back, as we see from ground level, and he gets good protection here. There's not good pressure. He has no one in his face, but he overthrows that receiver, and we get the clip right there with Chuck Zapek. Just as the ball was caught by Beaton, he started to run, and the intended receiver was clipped by number 76 Chuck Zapek.
It cost him about 30 yards because, of course, the penalty goes back to the infraction area, and now from the 33-yard line, Montreal begins. John O'Leary is back in the ball game for Montreal out to the 40-yard line. I believe that is his first appearance tonight. He got himself 7 yards. Ian Mofford has gone all the way to this point. Ron Fox, number 78, made the Toronto tackle, aided by Jim Corrigal. Sonny Wade, now a backup quarterback, and the punter, Marv Levy, has got a very imposing record as head coach here in his 5th season with Montreal, and this year an unbeatable one of 7 straight wins. Saving O'Leary or something, Russ, because in 2 carries, this guy looks ready to play.
Well, we're finding out he can play when he's hurt. I know at the press conference last night, Marv was quite evasive as to whether O'Leary would play, and Ian Mofford did start, but he had quite a severe Charlie horse in that last ball game, and he's come in there, and he certainly has improved this offense, especially the running part of the offense, which is going to help Joe Barnes with his passing.
Leo Cahill with words of encouragement for his defense. Digging in now to try to stop Montreal. Dalariva coming in motion left. Barnes going right. Knocked away through the hands of a couple of would-be interceptors. Granny Liggins came in to put some pressure on. Harris got his hands on the ball. There's a flag down, however. All right, we'll be right back here in Montreal, but first let's pause for a moment.
Defensively, with Grady going offside, that's not what they want to do, but as the motion starts to one side, the defensive end, either number 77, Wayne Smith, or number 79, Jim Corrigal, is moving to the outside to try and contain the quarterback, and the
good carry in a row. Reaches into the 48-yard line where Ray Nettles and Richard Lewis combined to stop him.
Don, as I was saying, Coach Cahill said at the opening of the show that they wanted to contain the quarterback, and I feel they must have read that certain motion by the wingback tells them that Barnes is going to roll out. And that is when we're getting the motion between the defensive end and the linebacker to try and give Corrigal and Smith a better chance at containment.
This is Rick Galvos, and he is down to the 44, a gain of about 4 for him there. There'll be 2nd and 6 to come. We have 2 minutes and 16 seconds remaining here until halftime. We mentioned Paul Bennett. He's one of many outstanding players to come from Sir Wilfrid Laurier. Paul, a good punt returner, promising defensive player. And they've got a history of producing some good football players, Wilfrid Laurier.
It's kind of nice to be on the poster that they have, and he's actually on the book that tells you all the courses that they have at Sir Wilfrid. Quite an honor for a young kid like that.
You bet. Here is Dalariva moving left. The ball to John O'Leary. Wayne Smith there to meet him with Granny Liggins and Lon Richardson.
John O'Leary.
And he'll be close to a first down inside the Toronto 40 with 1:48 left. There's John O'Leary, the newcomer from Nebraska, the most promising offensive newcomer in the Alouette lineup in 1977. Oddly enough, somebody from Nebraska left Montreal, Johnny Rogers, and O'Leary from the same school has moved in.
Johnny who?
It was an ordinary departure. The ball to the 38-yard line. They missed the first down by a few inches. So a big play for the Argonaut defenders to dig in for here as the Alouettes come out gambling. Barnes, 2 flags are thrown, though. Appeared to have enough for it.
Well, we'll probably get encroachment by that defensive line. They figure with only a couple inches to go, why not try and cheat a little bit?
Instead of giving a yard, they might have cut it down to about 21 inches.
How about centimeters?
Listen,
I'm going to test
Toronto. You are the high school vice principal. You figure that out.
Well, we'll give you a hint. 30 centimeters is about a foot.
30 centimeters is about a foot. Well, there are probably about 45 centimeters offside. I don't know exactly.
First and 10, Montreal.
Mike Wilson, one of the Georgia connections, certainly looking out there, hoping that the defense can get them the ball back and not give up any more points before halftime.
Barnes on first down. It's good to Larry Smith. A 7-yard gain at the Toronto 26. Smith has caught half a dozen on the season
Second down.
as he's worked in and out of the Montreal offensive lineup, very much in it right now.
Ballon à la ligne de 26.
Joe Barnes is 50%. He's only thrown 8 times. The Alouettes don't throw as much as most of the other teams. There's that time, 1:24 until halftime. And that should be close. John O'Leary getting down in the area of the 23, the position of the first down marker. And they will call for a measurement as requested by Montreal.
Well, Marv Levy is going up to the end of the Alouette bench where he gets a pretty good look at exactly how far they've got to go.
Don't think it's far enough. I think they're a little bit short, Russ. How many centimeters is that?
Well, he's got himself a little bit of work cut out for him here, but he's going to go for it. These fans are just egging him on all the way.
Well, they gambled before on this series with a little bit less than that to go. And undoubtedly, with 1:21 left now, they will be taking that risk once again. The score tied at 3. A first quarter field goal by Andrusician. A second quarter field goal by Don Sweet. Peter Gabriel, not looking unlike his brother Tony, now a member of the Toronto Argonauts. O'Leary for the first down. The last time Barnes kept for it, this time O'Leary bashes in there to keep the Montreal drive alive.
Well, Leo puts all the meat in there on those short yardage situations. Joel Parrish comes in and Mike Wilson to just beef up the center, and they take out 2 of those defensive backs. And that's got to be tempting to a quarterback to throw that ball, but you have to keep the drive going, number 1.
Number 73, Rick Soviet up there, nosing out of the end of that defensive line. Here's Barnes. Flag is thrown. The pass is caught. Could be holding against Montreal. Delariva made the catch, but Ray Watron may be guilty of holding. Montreal fans won't like that very much, but it appeared to be a clear-cut case of holding.
Wow, Granny Liggins put good pressure on, and he had number 52, Ray Watron, beaten to the outside. He reached out and grabbed him, and the referee was standing right there and threw the flag long before the pass was delivered, so the holding was called before the pass was completed. And again, not just the 10-yard loss on holding, Don, but they lose about another 15 yards and a potential chance at a touchdown in about the 5-yard line.
And it's getting late. 42 seconds left now.
Well, at the bottom of the screen now, we see Granny going to the outside with number 52, Ray Watson, trying to block him, and you can see him hook his arm there. He's got him. He lets him go after the flag's been thrown.
Joe Barnes scrambling once again.
Everybody's yelling, look out!
Out of bounds, close to a first down.
Well, and that's a sign of a pretty good quarterback, because he gained the 20 yards required, but he also got out of bounds with only about 30 seconds to play. He goes back here, tries to get back, straight drop back, but gets pretty good pressure now from Wayne Smith, who gets away from Dan Yoakum and number 51 Grandy, but he reverses the field. Again, a cardinal sin of a defensive end trying to contain. Don't give him the chance to come back to the outside. And you can see Wayne giving up there, but getting out of bounds was the key because we only have 30 seconds left.
And he measured it well. He got a first down.
Well, the fans might wonder why they had to measure because there was a marker there, but that is just on the other side of the field from the yardsticks, and that is a guesstimate on behalf of that man as to exactly where the first down is. And a concerned Leo Cahill right now.
Well, he should be.
He looks like he's got an Ottawa Rough Rider tie on.
Barnes intercepted in the end zone by Harris. He's going to take this all the way for a Toronto touchdown with 12 seconds left. You talk about a turnaround. Look at Leo Cahill. Yes, Leo, it's true.
Well, we've got a penalty flag, but we have a return of about 112 yards. But there was a flag thrown after the touchdown. A couple of players down here, I think it was Jim Corrigo and O'Leary, were having some words with each other, and the flag was thrown after Eric Harris had got into the end zone.
I'm quite sure it was after us. Harris brought it back 112 yards. And at halftime, we're going to see a guy, Gene Gaines, who ran one back 125 yards in a playoff game.
Well, that was a
Ottawa
kickoff he ran back.
A kickoff, but a long run from the end zone. This is the interception return. And here's Bill Dell now. This touchdown is going to stand. Unsportsmanlike conduct against Toronto. And it came after the touchdown. That's a strange time to become unsportsmanlike after you get a big break for a score.
Well, the penalty will take place on the kickoff, so they will lose the yardage from where they kick off. But I'm sure they are happy about that turn of events.
Leo's happier now. He knows that it did come after. That was his concern. Toronto on top, 9-3. Marv Levy's Alouettes were pressing for at least a field goal. The go-ahead points by halftime when the ball was thrown very suddenly and dramatically to Harris, who I thought looked surprised to even catch it.
Well, it was a crossing pattern by the two receivers, and he actually threw it right between them. Harris was caught nowhere, and the one receiver was wide open. But when the two Alouette receivers crossed, Barnes trying to hit the one going to the outside. Harris was going to the inside with the receiver, and he just happened to see it come into his arms, and I don't think he really knew he had it.
We've amended, as you look at Joe Barnes, that distance of Harris's return to 116 yards on the interception for the touchdown. Here is the point after attempt by Zenon Andrusician, and he's got it, but a penalty marker is thrown on the convert attempt. It is against Montreal, offside, naturally declined. The Argonauts have got themselves a 10-3 lead. Let's watch Harris's pickoff again.
Well, after Barnes had made that important first down, he goes straight back. We have receivers crossing, and Harris is going to the inside with the receiver coming from the outside. There we see him coming inside. Number 27 was going to the outside. And as the ball was thrown behind the receiver, it just hit Harris right in the hands, right in the breadbasket, and he picked it up, and he outran everybody to that end zone.
If you're wondering if it's a record, it just falls short. It's the fourth longest ever in the CFL. Neil Beaumont of BC with 120 yards. Hamilton's Lewis Porter with 119, and Dickie Harris of the Alouettes with 118. But this one by Eric Harris is the fourth longest interception return in CFL history, and it gives the Argonauts a 10-3 lead with a minute flag up. What a dramatic turnaround, and Marv Levy is the first to tell you that a turnaround can really turn around an entire game, and he's the team that has the fewest of them. You look it up at the end of the season, that's your championship team 9 times out of 10.
Well, especially at this time in the ball game, just before halftime, if Montreal had moved in and scored and had that 10-3 lead, it gives them the big lift. Now the turnaround, and Marv Levy's job at halftime is to get the Alouettes back up.
Wayne Smith, you saw, with ice applied to that injured knee of his. Marvin Davis mishandles the snap, and the Alouettes, quite disorganized now, will settle for it right there at the 21 with 8 seconds left. Archie Gray pouncing on the ball. Montreal, as you saw, driving for at least 3, wound up losing 7, and now trailed 10-3. The only touchdown of the game so far by Eric Harris. And that has got to have an effect on this Montreal team. John Beaton down on one knee.
22-yard line.
And he will wait for this attendant to come out from the training staff to consult with him and then escort him out to the sidelines. John Beaton, a former Edmonton Eskimo. 8 seconds left.
A lot has happened in about 22 seconds, Don.
It sure has. And it's a lot quieter here than it's been all night. Dan Diebert, the trainer, brings out Beaton, who appears to be all right. Yes, Montreal will not get too fancy at this stage. Joe Barnes takes down the time. The gun sounds to end the second quarter, and the Alouettes will have to go in and reorganize. The victims of a lightning-like attack by Harris for a 116-yard touchdown. And at the end of the first half, the score is the Toronto Argonauts 10, the Montreal Alouettes 3.
It's the halftime show on CBC. Hello again, everybody. I'm Tom McKee. Labor Day certainly lived up to its name for 6 of the 9 teams in the CFL yesterday. Only Montreal, Toronto, and BC had the day off, and really not Montreal and Toronto. They were preparing for tonight's game. The Lions and BC had a bit of time for relaxation. 2 games were played in the Western Conference. A surprise win by Saskatchewan over Winnipeg to the tune of 26-18. It's into the final quarter. Saskatchewan leading 16-11. This touchdown run by Molly McGee, 39 yards. It gives the Riders a 23-11 lead. But Winnipeg kept nibbling away. They closed the gap to 23-18. Then Lancaster took the Riders from their own 28-yard line. 6 plays later, at the 25-yard line at the other end, the field goal was good for the final score of the game. Still, the Bombers kept up their attack, and Bill Baker finally had to blow them off the field, getting through to Ralph Brock on the Saskatchewan 20 in the dying seconds. McAreedy, 4 field goals. Saskatchewan TDs, Molly McGee, as you saw, along with the 10-yard pass to Joey Walters. Saskatchewan 26 and Winnipeg 18. The battle in the Eastern Conference was for second place. Ivor Wynne Stadium, as Ottawa took over second place with a 33-18 victory over the Tiger Cats. The key play of that game midway in the third quarter. Ottawa leading only 13-10. Tom Clements and Jeff Avery combined for this 82-yard touchdown. That results in a 20-10 lead. Clements himself carried for 15 yards later. That was in the last minute of the third quarter. Good for a major. Then Oregon hit for a field goal. It was 30-10 and only 10 minutes left to play. Great balance by Jimmy Edwards accounted for another Hamilton touchdown in the fourth quarter, but it was a case of too little, too late. Gabriel, Clements, Avery, the touchdowns. Jerry Organ, a tremendous night. 3 converts, 4 field goals. He accounted for 15 of Ottawa's 33 points. One game yesterday was not televised. Let's look at the highlights of Edmonton Eskimos playing the Calgary Stampeders. That game took place in Calgary. And the first time the Stampeders had the ball, Matthew Reed at quarterback, it resulted in this play to Larry Latham. That ball goes down to the 1-yard line of the Edmonton Eskimos, and naturally it's a call to Willie Burton. And Burton cracks through from the 1-yard line. Calgary is in the lead by a score of 7-0. Second quarter now. Edmonton starts to threaten, but Calgary gets a big break as Edmonton fumbles on the 4-yard line, but they can't do anything with the football. And finally, they are forced to punt. Watch as Bill Palmer attempts to get the ball away. But Pete Lavaretto pulls him down, and this loss is good for 16 yards. However, it results only in a field goal for the Eskimos. They still trail Calgary, now 7-3. The next time Calgary got the ball, almost the same thing happened. It's Lavaretto again. He blocks the kick. It's recovered by York Henschel. Another field goal results 7-6 for Calgary. Watch Matthew Reed scurrying for his life in his own end zone. He eventually finds Willie Burton. The pass is good for 21 yards, but wait a minute. Burton fumbled. A big break for Edmonton. Tom Wilkinson now, third quarter. He fires to Strickland. It looks like a touchdown, but watch Strickland as he steps into touch right there at the 32-yard line. so it comes back there, where 2 plays later, Wilkinson threads the needle right down the pipe at the hash mark. It's again to Strickland, this time good for a touchdown, and they take the lead 15-8. They added 1 single and 2 field goals. The final score 22-8. Let's take a look at the Eastern Conference standings now. The only change from that game last night, where the Ottawa Rough Riders now have sole possession of second place with 6 points. If Toronto could win tonight, of course, they'd be back into a tie situation. As far as the West is concerned, the BC Lions are still on top, really proving that they are a football club, and Winnipeg proving that they can play no better than .500 ball this season. 4 wins and 4 losses for just 8 points. With tonight's game here in Montreal, all the CFL teams have now reached the halfway point of 8 games in this 1977 season. Canadian Football League on the CBC will continue in just a moment. For the first time in the last 16 years, the name Gene Gaines does not appear on a CFL player's roster. That is not to say that he isn't deeply involved in the game, because he certainly is, as defensive coach for the Montreal Alouettes. As a matter of fact, he combined coaching and playing when he returned to Montreal from Ottawa 7 years ago. It was while he was with the Rough Riders that Gene accomplished an almost superhuman feat, a record of which he is justly proud. It was a playoff game against Hamilton in 1964. Gaines took the kickoff and returned it 124 yards. It happened on his home field, Lansdowne Park. It had never happened before in the CFL, and it has not happened since. No person can receive a higher compliment than to be honored by his peers. That's exactly what Gene Gaines' night was for. The last time Ottawa played here in Montreal, that was 2 weeks ago tonight. And what a great surprise for Gene when his parents were flown up from California by the Alouettes.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Los Angeles, California, Mr. and Mrs. Isaac Gaines.
On behalf of the football players, we want to give Gene this little token for the appreciation of what he's done, not only as a friend, but as a football player. Congratulations, Gene.
Thank you very much, Junior, and get well quickly.
Gene and Marilyn and your family, on behalf of the Ottawa Rough Riders, it is my pleasure to present you these original paintings of the city of Ottawa. This gift is an appreciation of your contribution to football, not only in Ottawa, but all over Canada. Congratulations. Hope you like it, Gene.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Claire. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Greg Fulton.
Gene, this is the first game ball for the 1977 Grey Cup game to be played in this beautiful stadium on November 27th. Gene, you have been a credit to the league during 16 outstanding seasons as a player. Let's have 16 more as a coach. Good luck.
CBC Television Sports also offers our congratulations to Gene Gaines. He was a great professional, both as a player and off the playing field as well. We wish him well as a coach and perhaps a head coach in the CFL one day. You're watching the Canadian Football League on CBC. Our halftime show continues in a moment.
We have quite a halftime show going on here for the many fans here at the Olympic Stadium, and certainly I think as we started the show we said that to beat the Montreal Alouettes you must be successful in containing Joe Barnes, and Coach Cahill said this, we've mentioned it throughout the first half, and this is one thing that the Toronto Argonauts have done very well. Jim Corrigal, I believe, is having the best half of football that he has had this season. He's been suffering from an ankle injury, but what Toronto is trying to do to prevent Joe Barnes from getting outside, they're trying to give their defensive ends a little more room to the outside with certain motion that the Alouettes will give the Argonaut defense. The defensive ends, Corrigal and Smith, are moving outside, and the linebackers inside, and that gives Corrigal and Smith a much better shot at the quarterback, and I think this has been part of their success. Certainly Chuck Ely has not been sharp tonight. He's 3 of 10 for 15 yards, and he threw one interception to John Beaton. A couple of others could have been picked off, and he had good pass protection on this particular play from ground level. You see the good pass protection and some help by Peter Mueller before he releases into the pattern. And Chuck, with nobody in his face, just overthrows the potential receiver right into the hands of John Beaton, who's just playing a deep center field in his own defense. We did have a clipping call on Chuck Zapek on this particular play, and it did bring it back, not only the amount that John ran it back, but another 10 yards for the clipping call. But I think that one of the things that's going to have to happen in the second half is that Chuck is going to have to get that passing game going a little bit more to compensate for some good running by Neil Lumsden. But the big play of the game certainly came with 30 seconds remaining in the half. We had, after Barnes had made the first down, he went back, had good protection, and Brock Ainsley from the outside is coming to the inside, covered by Eric Harris, and number 74, Della Riva, going to the outside with Lauren Richardson covering him. I believe he was trying to hit Peter Della Riva going to the outside, because he did have Lauren Richardson beaten, but he threw the ball behind Peter Della Riva, and Harris was right there to pick it off and took it 116 yards for a touchdown. And certainly that has to be the big psychological lift. That's what Marv Levy's going to have to suffer with to come out for the second half. We'll be back with the second half kickoff in just a moment.
Well, maybe the fans here at Olympic Stadium weren't jumping for joy when Eric Harris went for his 116-yard romp. 4th best ever in the league, as a matter of fact, in history. But certainly Toronto fans were. What about you, Eric? Were you as surprised as you might have looked when you grabbed that ball? It was thrown right to your belt buckle.
All right. It was behind me a pass because I had my man outside, and we was in man coverage, and I saw the ball up, and luckily I just turned around, and the ball came straight into my hand, and a long run. Touchdown.
This is really a defensive ball game so far.
Yes, it's been a defensive ball game all through the game, and I just hope that our offense can turn over the second half, just hold the ball a little longer, and I believe we'll be able to have this game in hand.
We know what's going on up on the line as far as your containment of Joe Barnes. Is everything working in the backfield as well?
We're having pretty good coverage. The only thing about Barnes is we just got to keep him inside. Once he get outside, he's dangerous.
Eric Harris, what a fine interception. Congratulations once again. Have a good second half.
All right.
Now let's check in with some of those statistics. Chevy?
All right, Tom. And in the first half, it was indeed a defensive battle. The net offense would indicate that. Toronto getting a little better of it over Montreal. The turnovers, well, Montreal coughed it up twice, and that, of course, is one of the important stats in any football game. The penalties, well, they got their share, 80 yards against Toronto. By the way, the penalty called after the romp by Harris after he crossed the goal line was against Jim Corrigal for unsportsmanlike conduct. He apparently had said something rather uncomplimentary to John O'Leary of the Alouettes. One of the officials, Floyd Cooper, overheard him, and then at halftime, as the gun sounded, Corrigal came over and apologized and shook O'Leary's hand. So all is forgotten there. And now at halftime, we've got a 10-3 Toronto lead over Montreal on Harris's 116-yard touchdown, the 4th longest interception return in CFL history. Montreal is going to receive the kickoff to begin the 3rd quarter. And it will be interesting, Russ, to see what Marv Levy may have been able to accomplish at halftime to reorganize a very obviously dispirited Montreal team that left the field at the half.
Well, I think psychologically they have to be down and the Argos have to be up. But I think one of the things that maybe Montreal is going to have to do offensively, with Toronto doing a good job with those defensive ends and containing Barnes most of the time and have thrown him for 3 losses, maybe Barnes is going to have to drop back more, because when you move those ends outside, it makes much further for them to come to get to the quarterback if he goes into the pocket. So maybe that's something they'll have to do.
Here's Andrew Zishin pumping a short kickoff to the 33-yard line. Marvin Davis got tripped up as he was getting into full gear, and he crossed the 45-yard line to about the 46. The Toronto Blue Jays not faring as well as the Argonauts tonight. They trail the Boston Red Sox 6-1 after 6 innings at Exhibition Stadium. A grand slam home run by Carlton Fisk got the Bull Sox going as they pursue the Yankees. Don't forget baseball tomorrow night. Right now, a whale of a CFL football game as the Alouettes attempt to come back first down at 47. Ian Mofford He slashes left for about 2 at the 49. The ball came free. It's going over to the Toronto Argonauts. Mofford was just about down when that ball tumbled free.
Well, again, this switch by the defensive line, and that's got to be presenting some problems blocking on these running plays, and we just see congestion there as Mofford tries to come in and gain some yards, and number 62, it looks like Ekamet Burley comes across and recovers that fumble. But again, they're making that movement between the defensive end and the linebacker with the motion.
Another big Toronto turnover at the Montreal 51. Franklin at quarterback for Toronto. No good for Peter Mueller. And I wonder if anything is wrong with Chuck Ely, because very unexpectedly, number 9, Dennis Franklin, has come on to start the third quarter.
Well, Don, we know that Chuck Ely has had some problems with his left shoulder, but I don't think he was injured there. He's sort of moving that right arm around. I don't see any extra pad in there at all underneath the shoulder pad, but he does seem to be having some problems with the right side this time, although the separation over the last month has been on the left side.
Well, Franklin has just been dying to play quarterback for Toronto. And that's his performance on the entire season. For Kirk, he's got a strike at the Montreal 29. That may have been the worst thing to happen to the Alouettes in their comeback attempt, Russ, on a 22-yard game we saw there, is to give the ball out so early in this third quarter, having had the second quarter end the way it did.
Well, it just adds to that psychological turnaround that you get all the time, and all that Marv Levy said goes down the drain again. But here we see the defensive secondary playing zone out here, and we see the inside receiver and the outside receiver coming down there, and Franklin throwing that ball very well to the outside.
Franklin will keep at the 25-yard line. He's met there by Goodell, who tears his helmet off.
That's not his head.
I hope it isn't. Let's bring in Tom McKee. Tom?
Well, you were wondering about Chuck Ely. I asked him just a moment ago if there was anything wrong. He said no. Even if there was, I don't think he's going to tell me at this juncture of the game. Franklin's in there. We said before that this is basically a defensive football game. Maybe Leo put Franklin in just to try and shake up the offense a bit. But it appears that Ely is okay.
Well, he appears to be grimacing, though, as he does throw on the sideline, so something is amiss. Second down and 6. Franklin going long to the end zone for Linterman. Oh, it's knocked away by John Beaton, and he's thrown down by Linterman after Rudy thought that Beaton might have intercepted the ball.
Well, it was a good call.
The turnovers, well, Montreal coughed it up twice, and that, of course, is one of the important stats in any football game. The penalties, well, they got their share, 80 yards against Toronto. By the way, the penalty called after the romp by Harris after he crossed the goal line was against Jim Corrigal for unsportsmanlike conduct. He apparently had said something rather uncomplimentary to John O'Leary of the Alouettes. One of the officials, Floyd Cooper, overheard him, and then at halftime, as the gun sounded, Corrigal came over and apologized and shook O'Leary's hand. So all is forgotten there. And now at halftime, we've got a 10-3 Toronto lead over Montreal on Harris's 116-yard touchdown, the 4th longest interception return in CFL history. Montreal is going to receive the kickoff to begin the third quarter. And it will be interesting, Russ, to see what Marv Levy may have been able to accomplish at halftime to reorganize a very obviously dispirited Montreal team that left the field at the half.
Well, I think psychologically they have to be down and the Argos have to be up. But I think one of the things that maybe Montreal is going to have to do offensively, with Toronto doing a good job with those defensive ends and containing Barnes most of the time and have thrown him for 3 losses, maybe Barnes is going to have to drop back more, because when you move those ends outside, it makes much further for them to come to get to the quarterback if he goes into the pocket. So maybe that's something they'll have to do.
Here's Andrusician pumping a short kickoff to the 33-yard line. Marvin Davis got tripped up as he was getting into full gear, and he crossed the 45-yard line to about the 46. The Toronto Blue Jays not faring as well as the Argonauts tonight. They trail the Boston Red Sox 6-1 after 6 innings at Exhibition Stadium. A grand slam home run by Carlton Fisk got the Bull Sox going as they pursue the Yankees. Don't forget baseball tomorrow night. Right now, a whale of a CFL football game as the Alouettes attempt to come back first down at the 47. Ian Mofford. He slashes left for about 2 at the 49. The ball came free. It's going over to the Toronto Argonauts. Mofford was just about down when that ball tumbled free.
Well, again, this switch by the defensive line, and that's got to be presenting some problems blocking on these running plays, and we just see congestion there as Mofford tries to come in and gain some yards, and number 62, it looks like Ecomet Burley comes across and recovers that fumble. But again, they're making that movement between the defensive end and the linebacker with the motion.
Another big Toronto turnover at the Montreal 51. Franklin at quarterback for Toronto. No good for Peter Mueller. And I wonder if anything is wrong with Chuck Ely, because very unexpectedly, number 9, Dennis Franklin, has come on to start the third quarter.
Well, Don, we know that Chuck Ely has had some problems with his left shoulder, but I don't think he was injured there. He's sort of moving that right arm around. I don't see any extra pad in there at all underneath the shoulder pad, but he does seem to be having some problems with the right side this time, although the separation over the last month has been on the left side.
Well, Franklin has just been dying to play quarterback for Toronto. And that's his performance on the entire season. For Kirk, he's got a strike at the Montreal 29. That may have been the worst thing to happen to the Alouettes in their comeback attempt, Russ, on a 22-yard gain we saw there, is to give the ball out so early in this third quarter, having had the second quarter end the way it did.
Well, it just adds to that psychological turnaround that you get all the time, and all that Marv Levy said goes down the drain again. But here we see the defensive secondary playing zone out here, and we see the inside receiver and the outside receiver coming down there, and Franklin throwing that ball very well to the outside.
Franklin will keep at the 25-yard line. He's met there by Cornell, who tears his helmet off.
That's not his head.
I hope it isn't. Let's bring in Tom McKee. Tom?
Well, you were wondering about Chuck Ely. I asked him just a moment ago if there was anything wrong. He said no. Even if there was, I don't think he's going to tell me at this juncture of the game. Franklin's in there. We said before that this is basically a defensive football game. Maybe Leo put Franklin in just to try and shake up the offense a bit. But it appears that Ely is okay.
Well, he appears to be grimacing, though, as he does throw on the sideline, so something is amiss. Second down and 6. Franklin going long to the end zone for Linterman. Oh, and it's knocked away by John Beaton, and he's thrown down by Linterman after Rudy thought that Beaton might have intercepted the ball.
Well, it was a good call by Franklin. I don't know whether it was called from the huddle, but he caught them in a man-to-man defense. And in the man-to-man defense, Beaton had him all the way. We've got the blitz coming on here. Number 72, Cornell, is coming on. And Beaton has Linterman all the way down there. And we get the hit just after the pass is released. But Linterman was in behind him. If he'd lofted that ball over top of them, he might have been able to get to it. But Beaton in good position.
The Argonauts in position now for a field goal attempt from 32 yards out by Zenon Androsian. On 3rd and 6. It's good. Toronto into a 10-point lead now with 2 minutes and 54 seconds gone in the third quarter. The score is the Toronto Argonauts 13 and the Montreal Alouettes 3. We'll be right back at Olympic Stadium, but first, let's pause for just a moment. Well, there are so many people here. They are having a lot of trouble counting them all. It's a big crowd, near 70,000. That is Rick Galbos working hard and getting bumped around, all for about 2 yards. Ray Nettles made the final hit that stopped him across the 35-yard line. The Alouettes never getting a chance to collect themselves after the Eric Harris interception. There's Donnie McGraw having a hand attended to at the Toronto bench. Let's see now if Montreal can do something with the football as they trail by 13-3. Ray Nettles, Wayne Smith, who missed a part of this game with an ice pack in his knee. Jim Corrigal, very big, as has been a Comet Burley on the defense for Toronto. Rambling, scrambling Joe Barnes. Hit by Richard Lewis, but not before he picked up a first down at the Montreal 46.
Well, that's the one thing about Barnes. He'll challenge the big ones. He doesn't pick on anybody small, and he didn't take to the dirt at all. He just decided he was going to challenge Richard Lewis.
But by and large, the Argonauts, coached by this man, Leo Cahill, have contained Joe Barnes rather effectively.
Well, Pat Bonnet's had a lot of problems with Economist Burley tonight. Number 50, the right guard. Number 62, the defensive tackle for Toronto.
Galvos to the 50-yard line for 3. Granny Liggins, number 51, met him there. The Argonauts' right defensive tackle. It'll be second down and 7, Montreal. Pat Bonnet, there he is. He's the man that has been in a contest and a losing effort against number 62 for Toronto. There he is, Economist Burley.
He's not very big, but he is quick, and they say that he's even quicker than Granny. And when you get off the mark quicker than Granny Liggins, I don't know whether they can film it.
I think he's more consistent, play in, play out for strong performance than Liggins might be. But Liggins, of course, has been out for much of this season. Here's Joe Barnes now, second down. That is complete, but no first down for Rick Galvos near midfield. Paul Bennett made a good first tackle on him and holds him 2.5 yards short of the first down. The folks at Sir Wilfrid Laurier will be equally proud, along with Paul, of that defensive maneuver.
Well, as we said earlier, he comes to play, he likes to hit, and that's the type of game he does play. And when you get a guy like Rick Galvos coming out there, if you just give him a chance to turn it upfield, he's going to get that extra 2 or 3 yards for the first down. But he made the initial good hit, getting his head in front of the ball carrier and pushing him into the ground. And to do that to a Rick Galvos, that's pretty good.
Now he goes back as a punt return man, joining Rudy Linterman, number 8, standing inside the Toronto 10-yard line for Sonny Wade's 5th punt of the night. Hangs up short. No yards called against Montreal as Bennett returns the ball and is taken down right there at the 25. Jerry DiTilio, number 9, appeared to be the Montreal player infringing upon the 5-yard restraining zone. Only 34 yards for Wade that time, and the Montreal punt coverage team may have been caught by that short kick. Here's Bill Dell to tell us, no yards.
No yards against Montreal.
Well, again, we see the problem here. Number 31, the new wide receiver Archie Gray getting down there, and with the short punt coming down like a hand grenade, he had no chance of getting out of there.
It was Gray, along with DiTilio, in within 5 yards. DiTilio on the other side of that play, and the Argonauts get the ball at the 39-yard line. Dennis Franklin, a wide receiver, now at quarterback for Chuck Healy. McGraw to about the 41, gets only 2. He was met right away by Glenn Weir.
Stop by
Montreal fans begin to whoop it up now for their defense, but they've been frustrated by the failure of their offense to move the ball. Johnny McGraw, well, he's not even averaging 2 yards a carry tonight.
Well, we have a 6th defensive back coming in now with a 2nd and 8 situation. Wally Buono, number 39, comes out, and Lewis Cook, a backup defensive back, goes in as the 6th defensive back, expecting the Toronto Argonauts to throw the ball.
Instead will keep. And he has got a first down up at the 49. Glenn Weir again on the stop. The Alouettes have got their scrambler in Barnes. The Argonauts have their reply in Dennis Franklin.
Well, this is the problem of taking that linebacker. This is exactly the side Wally Buono would be playing. And we have the situation where he comes out here and there's really no linebacker. We see number 27, Lewis Cook, who's in there replacing that linebacker off the field a great deal, way back from the line. So it gives Franklin a lot of opportunity to run with the ball.
First down between the 51 and the 52. Wrapped up quickly was Mark Braganolo. Let's check in again with Tom McKee.
There's the stuff you're supposed to use. That's supposed to help you catch footballs. Bennett's trying it. Maybe he's looking for an interception. Firm grip, it's called. Doesn't always work, but it's that stuff they talk about when they say they have stick-em on their hands.
All right.
That's interesting because you're not supposed to put any foreign substance on the football.
Yeah. Well, it's okay on your hands, I guess. 2nd and 10. Franklin away from Judges. And it goes from one receiver to another. And they will get where the first man touched the ball, the completion. And where that was is in first down range. Kelvin Kirk touched it and tipped the ball to Rudy Linterman. You can watch for it. We have a little discussion out here now as there was a penalty marker down in the Argonaut offensive backfield. And Bill Dell will come out now to try to sort this out for us.
I think there might have been a little bit of illegal procedure somewhere.
Rough play against Montreal. Offensive interference against Toronto.
We're going to have a 5-yard gain out of that for the Toronto Argonauts because there is a 5-yard difference in the penalties. This is going to be 2nd and about 6 yards.
The ball on the play, as you saw, had been tipped from Kelvin Kirk to Rudy Linterman. And Leo Cahill doesn't like how they've sorted this situation out.
Well, it's 15 one way and 10 the other, and that adds up to 5 when you subtract.
Pays to have a mathematics expert in our midst.
I think now, because of the roughing penalty, they're giving them the automatic first down, which is what Leo was complaining about. With the roughing call, it becomes an automatic first down, but 5 yards advance from where they originally scrimmaged the ball.
That's what's happened. So it's at the 47 of Montreal for a Toronto first down. Clipped on a wrap-up. And he'll lose 8 on the play. It'll be 2nd down 18 Toronto now, back at center field.
Une perte de sévère. 2e et 17 à franchir Toronto à la ligne de centre.
Argonauts now. Coming into the ball game, Neil Lumsden goes to the sidelines on 2nd down and 18. Intercepted by Randy Rhino. Even with the Toronto tackle, the Montreal fans finally have something to cheer about.
Well, Dennis Franklin going back, and Vernon Perry, number 37, actually stepped in front of Rudy Linterman, number 8, and then Rhino pulled it down with one hand and ran it back, and Mike Eben made a pretty good hit here, and now we have Rhino trying to give this team a lift. He did it in the first half when he ran back that punt.
A big turnover for Montreal. Ian Mofford on the handoff from Joe Barnes takes it down inside the 45.
Ian Mofford.
Richardson and Liggins met him.
Liggins on the tackle.
And they are about a yard away from the first down.
Well, Ray Nettles here playing this split T action as Barnes comes down the line and hands off to Mofford. He's looking for the quarterback, although he does get knocked off by number 55, Barry Randall. But certainly a good offensive thrust by the Montreal Alouettes and Ian Mofford.
Ray Nettles at middle linebacker, number 57. And Rick Galbos gets the first down for Montreal near the 40. Jim Corrigal cut him down. First down, Montreal, as the Alouettes finally have some spark after that big turnover by number 21, Randy Rhino. Galbos is tied up after a 2 or 3 yard gain by Comet Burley. 4 minutes and 18 seconds remaining here in the third quarter. Toronto leads 13-3, but the Alouettes are moving.
2nd and 9, Montreal.
Another big game coming up on Sunday when Ottawa will host Montreal. We'll have that for you on the CBC Television Eastern Network. While Western viewers will see a rematch of yesterday's Winnipeg-Saskatchewan game from Winnipeg. good for Archie Gray. A lunging attempt to bring that ball in was unsuccessful, and it goes to 3rd down and 8 for Montreal. 3:45 left now until the end of the 3rd quarter. Don Sweet coming out, number 11. He has Montreal's points tonight, all 3 of them on an earlier field goal from 44 yards away. And that was his 8th in a row. He holds the world record, of course, established last year of 21 consecutive field goals. And as you said, Russ, he's the premier field goal man in Canada. No question of that.
Well, his consistency does it for him. This Montreal club scores a lot of touchdowns, but when he gets the opportunity, he does a real fine job.
Accurate, cool under pressure. Now attempting from 46 yards out. And he's done it again. Sweet makes it 13-6. The Alouettes exactly 1 converted touchdown behind now.
Yards out. Now, Toronto 13.
Toronto will take the ball from the 35-yard line. Now there is Big Bird, or whatever, the representative of the Larks. The Alouettes here in Montreal.
I don't know what that is.
It's nothing I've ever seen before either.
Well, Dennis Franklin is still in at quarterback, so I would suggest that something might be wrong with Chuck.
Has to be. Neil Lumsden is out to the 40. That's good for 5. Chuck Zapek was there with Carl Cornell to meet him for the Montreal Alouettes. Just under 3 minutes left here in the 3rd quarter to a touchdown of Barnes. We'll be right back. The Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Don Chevrier with Russ Jackson and Tom McKee welcoming you back to quite a struggle. With 2:50 left in the 3rd quarter, it's 13-6 for Toronto. 1st down or 2nd down Argonauts at the 40-yard line. 5 to go. Franklin running for his life. Finally caught by Marvin Davis. A 5-yard loss. It'll be 3rd and 10.
Marvin Davis. A loss of 5 yards on the line.
That is the 2nd sack for Montreal on Dennis Franklin. 2:27 left now in the 3rd quarter. The Alouettes about to get the ball back. And Position will be kicking to Rhino and Harris near the Montreal 30-yard line. But it's short. And will go out of bounds at the Montreal bench, way up at the 43.
Well, this crowd not appreciating the fact that Zenon kicked that ball out of bounds. He doesn't want to give Dickie Harris or Randy Rhino, number 18 or 21, a chance to return that punt.
32 yards, the length of his kick. And Androsian has not kicked well under pressure tonight.
Well, the momentum could be changing here, and this crowd has something to do with it.
They have a great deal to do with it. 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. Nearly picked off. Mike Thomas, number 26, had a chance for the interception. Flaring out was the running back Rick Galbos as the intended pass receiver. So it's 2nd and 10 from the 42-yard line. The Montreal 42. The clock moving down to 1 minute and 40 seconds of 3rd quarter playing time. 13-6 for Toronto. Barnes 5 for 12. Barnes away from Wayne Smith. He fumbles the ball. It may have been inbounds, Leo Cahill says. Barnes is down on the play. The officials reacted as though the play was dead, but the ball spilled out. Tom McKee, are you there?
Yeah, right in front of us, and that happened right. He's favoring his right arm, maybe his right shoulder. He was grabbing the area between his elbow and his shoulder, and I think he's leaving the football game.
The Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Don Chevrier with Russ Jackson and Tom McKee welcoming you back to quite a struggle. With 2:50 left in the third quarter, it's 13-6 for Toronto. First down or second down Argonauts at the 40-yard line. 5 to go. Franklin running for his life. Finally caught by Marvin Davis. A 5-yard loss, it'll be 3rd and 10.
Marvin Davis. A loss of 5 yards on the line.
That is the second sack for Montreal on Dennis Franklin. 2:27 left now in the third quarter. The Alouettes about to get the ball back. And position will be kicking to Rhino and Harris near the Montreal 30-yard line. But it's short and will go out of bounds at the Montreal bench way up at the 43.
Well, this crowd not appreciating the fact that Zenon kicked that ball out of bounds. He doesn't want to give Dickie Harris or Randy Rhino, number 18 or 21, a chance to return that punt.
32 yards, the length of his kick. And Androsian has not kicked well under pressure tonight.
Well, the momentum could be changing here, and this crowd has something to do with it.
They have a great deal to do with it. 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Oh, nearly picked off. Mike Thomas, number 26, had a chance for the interception. Flaring out was the running back Rick Galbos as the intended pass receiver. So it's 2nd and 10 from the 42-yard line. The Montreal 42. The clock moving down to 1 minute and 40 seconds of third quarter playing time. 13-6 for Toronto. Barnes 5 for 12. Barnes away from Wayne Smith. He fumbles the ball. It may have been inbounds, Leo Cahill says. Barnes is down on the play. The officials reacted as though the play was dead, but the ball spilled out. Tom McKee, are you there?
Yeah, right in front of us, and that happened right. He's favoring his right arm, maybe his right shoulder. He was grabbing the area between his elbow and his shoulder, and I think he's leaving the football game. But he was in definite pain as soon as he rolled over and we could see his face. Bad news for the Alouettes if that's a serious one.
Off in the end zone, we see Joe Barnes going back here now, and he gets original pressure. Granny Liggins coming in from the outside, but finally gets taken down by Watson, number 52. And as he rolls out here, it's just a good pursuit. And now he's not running with a linebacker. He's running with a defensive back, number 26, Ike Harris. And as he pulls him down, he rolls him over on that right shoulder into that artificial turf. And as Tom said, when he came up, he was hurting a little bit.
Sonny Wade kicking on third down as the ball remained in the Alouettes' possession. Rudy Linterman out across the 35-yard line to give the Argonauts offensive opportunity with 58 seconds left, a 13-yard Linterman run back after Wade's 39-yard punt.
Well, again, one of those situations that could turn a ball game around, but they certainly do have Montreal does have an adequate replacement in Sonny Wade. He has not had a lot of action, but he's been in this game before, and he can turn games around. He's been known to do that many times when Jimmy Jones, who's now with Hamilton, and Sonny were both here in Montreal.
The Argonauts are struggling with their backup man, Dennis Franklin. Out at second base. exactly what he slipped on, was the cover for second base here at Olympic Stadium.
Trying to stretch a single into a double.
Yeah. That little ridge cut his cleat as he came across it, and down he went. And it cost him 5 yards. Here's Lauren Richardson, the former Saskatchewan Rough Rider. He's played well the last couple of games. He's had trouble adjusting to the Argonaut system coming out of Saskatchewan. Wayne Smith, an ex-Ottawa Rough Rider and BC Lion. 2nd and 15. Donnie McGraw going nowhere. Chuck Zapek, the corner linebacker on the left side, caught McGraw, and the Argonauts will be 3rd down and 13.
Well, Chuck Zapek finally put the hit on him, but number 23, Tony Proudfoot, playing the inside safety, came up, and he cut down the interference. Big Mike Wilson and Joel Parrish were trying to get out in front, and Proudfoot sacrificed his body to the two of them so that Zapek could make the tackle.
Well, that's it. Time has run out here, and at the end of the 3rd quarter, the score is Toronto 13 and Montreal 6.
They do not think it's a shoulder separation, but there's injury there somewhere. Back to the action.
3rd down, Argonauts, and a punt by Andrew Zishin, one of his better ones of this game, to the 22-yard line to Randy Rhino. Rhino made a lot of good moves, all lateral across the 25-yard line, and didn't get very much. Ward Smith finally stopped him. That was a 55-yarder by Andrew Zishin. And Sonny Wade will come on to quarterback the Alouettes due to the injury to Joe Barnes.
Well, this will create a few changes for that Toronto defense. They won't be using those defensive ends quite as wide because they feel that Sonny Wade will not run as much as Joe Barnes will. He'll drop straight back in the pocket, and by keeping the ends in tighter, they get a better rush on their quarterback when he drops straight back.
Galvos out for about 5 near the 33. We are just starting the 4th quarter at the Olympic Stadium. It is 13-6 for Toronto over Montreal. That turnaround touchdown late in the 2nd quarter by Eric Harris is still the difference here. 116 yards, he brought it back. Wade has only thrown 5 on the entire season. Joe Barnes has played all but just a few plays for Montreal until now. Is stacked up, and finally, after getting away, is tracked down around the 32. Richard Lewis came out to meet him. Ray Nettles gave him the first shot, and I think they marked him dead the first time at the 35-yard line. So it's going to be 3rd down and 3 for Montreal. The Alouettes frustrated by a lack of offensive continuity in this 4th quarter as Linterman, number 8, the former Calgary Stampeder, is back there to receive, along with Paul Bennett. They're standing at the Toronto 30. Wade, 43 yards tonight. That is just below his seasonal average. Big rush on him, and he just gets it away. Let's check in now with Tom McKee.
Don, the story, as I understand it, from the Montreal bench, as far as Joe Barnes is concerned, that is a definite shoulder separation. That is very bad news. So went Barnes, so went the Montreal Alouettes in this season. At least it seemed that way. I'm not downgrading Sonny Wade at all. But Joe Barnes was making this club move. Now he has a shoulder separation. We'll keep our eye on it.
Chuck Ely out with a similar problem, although perhaps not a recurrence of the separation for Toronto. Comes back in now. Out to Peter Mueller, and Mueller had 8 yards before they rolled him back around the 50-yard line. Randy Rhino defending for Montreal. Russ, we have a record crowd here in Montreal tonight. There's Joe Barnes sitting at the bench. The attendance has been announced. It is 69,093, which surpasses the previous mark of 68,505 set last fall by the Alouettes in their first game ever here in Montreal. So they didn't get 70,000. Maybe they'll bring it in the next time.
Well, they certainly will, I'm sure, sometime this year.
The Grey Cup will no doubt have 70. Here's the pitch out. Dragonolo has the Toronto first down near midfield.
Dragonolo, the ball carrier, stopped by Randy Rhino.
Well, you have to also think, Don, I know we dwelled on Joe Barnes a lot tonight. You have to think of the psychological influence that this is going to have on this Montreal offensive team. They've been built around Joe Barnes. As we mentioned, Sonny Wade has hardly played this year. Even when Joe was hit out in Edmonton, had that severe hit from behind by Dale Platter. They didn't play Wade too much. And certainly the offense now is going to have to get geared to Sonny Wade.
Ely is throwing well. He connects with Mike Eben at the 45-yard line. Eben's famous sideline pattern. Right in front of the man who released him a few weeks ago, Leo Cahill, who's glad to have him back now due to the injury by Tony Hill that has forced him out for the season.
First down, Toronto, on Montreal.
The Argonauts are taking Ely under any conditions right now because they simply were not moving with Dennis Franklin.
Well, he's played hurt in the last couple of ball games, and certainly the 2 weeks certainly should have improved that left shoulder, but it seemed to be a problem with the right side when we were watching him on the sideline.
That's how it appeared. First down, and is Lumsden getting through near the 40-yard line. He'll have about 3 to 4 yards. 11 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, and it's 13-6 Toronto leading the Montreal Alouettes.
Second down, 6.
I'm surprised that Sonny Wade isn't throwing on the sideline here and getting warmed up, because he hasn't been throwing too much. And with the ball game now with a little over 10 minutes to go and behind 13-6 and Toronto in scoring position again, he's going to have to put that ball in the air.
Chuck Ely has nobody open, and he runs for the first down. Clifton Alapa caught up with him. A gritty performance by Ely, coming back strong here in the fourth quarter. 10:17 left, and we'll be right back. Just announced it to the crowd here, 69,093. They represent an all-time CFL record single-game high. Toronto at the Montreal 32. First down. Cornell rides Ely down. A loss of 10.
Picked up by Colin Cornell.
Until that play, Ely had rushed 4 times for 62 yards, but he cost himself 10.
Well, Gabriel Gregoire, number 47, who's in at that defensive end spot this time, gets pinned to the inside, but Cornell, who's the middle linebacker, is shadowing that quarterback as he goes out there. And once he got to the outside of number 47, Gregoire, Cornell just came on like a train and put him to the ground.
He had a free ticket all the way into the quarterback. This is 2nd and 10. Ely going deep. Kirk, touchdown.
Touchdown, Toronto. Number 14.
Calvin Kirk caught it just inside the flag, and the Argonauts increase their lead to 19-6.
Well, Calvin Kirk, number 14, who has that great speed, but they don't get the ball to him too much because of Whit Tucker's isolation. We have him going down here, and he runs what we call a post corner. He starts to the inside toward the goal post, gets number 37, Vernon Perry, to make a complete turn, and Ely did a great job of throwing the ball away from the defensive back and right into the corner there across the goal line. But a good throw by Ely. Once Kirk got Perry turned around, he led him away from the defensive back.
A 37-yard touchdown, and there is the point after by Andrusician, and the Toronto Argonauts have a 20-6 lead over the Montreal Alouettes with 9 minutes and 8 seconds to play in the fourth quarter. A 2 converted touchdown lead for a very happy band of Toronto Argonauts. You got to give Chuck Ely a lot of credit for coming back in and engineering the kind of offense that he did, traveling 68 yards in 6 plays, capping it with a 37-yarder to Kirk for the score.
But a big play in that drive, Don, was Chuck Ely when he scrambled out of the pocket after they put the good pressure on him and made that first down to keep the drive alive.
Ely's been wrapped by a lot of sources over the past few years, but you've got to give the man credit for coming back and holding his ground and looking very, very impressive throughout this 1977 season.
Well, he's a guy that never says die. He's got a lot of what you really want to have in a player inside him, and no matter what the situation is, he keeps his head up and he keeps his mouth shut. I think that's very important.
I guess one of the reasons that you stuck with him last year and kept giving him chance after chance.
That's right.
Here's Andrusic's kickoff. A squiver down to Marvin Davis, and he lost the football. Goes to Toronto. A big break for the Argonauts. Rick Sovieta has the ball. When things go bad, they really go sour. And Montreal has had time and time again turnovers, and breaks go against them.
Well, from the end zone, we see this short kickoff. Z just nubbing it now. He's doing this on purpose. He doesn't want to kick it deep. And Marvin Davis, number 66, has those hands all taped up as a defensive lineman. Last time they kicked it to him, he almost broke it before Bragagnola tripped him up. This time, and couldn't even pick it up off the ground, and Sovieta picks it up. And now Argos are in scoring position again.
Inside the 35, and cut down quickly is McGraw by blitzing Tony Proudfoot. So the Alouettes react with a big defensive play in the face of trouble and push the Argonauts back to the 39.
Well, Proudfoot came up one other time and took on the offensive blockers. This time he beats them completely to the inside and really rocks number 25, McGraw. He wants to know where he came from.
He came right through Mike Wilson's spot, of all people.
Well, Mike's pulling out of there, and he just beat him to the pass.
Davis chasing Chuck Ely. He gets it away. It's complete to McGraw, or is it? No catch. 2 flags down.
Don, I think we've got a legal procedure against Toronto, and then we've got roughing when they went after Chuck Ely after he threw the ball. So I think Toronto's going to come out ahead of the game on his sequence of penalties.
Well, a very exasperated Marvin Davis, who fumbled a couple of plays ago, was the man pursuing and pounding Ely when he threw the ball. And that's obviously what happened. You're correct on those 2 penalty calls, I believe, as we await confirmation from referee Bill Dell. He explains it to Carl Cornell. Here he comes to tell us.
Rudesse contre les Alouettes.
That's a first down, Toronto, on unnecessary roughness against Marvin Davis.
Well, we don't see the illegal procedure, but Ely is rolling to his left now, and after he releases the ball, now you know Davis is frustrated.
Oh.
There it is. I'll give him a little tap on the top of the head. And that's why you wear helmets when you play football.
Actually, Chuck was lucky he didn't give it to him on that shoulder.
Might have hurt more.
Might have hurt Davis more, too. Although that helmet's pretty hard. First down at the 28. Neil Lumsden had his feet cut out from under him as he got across the 25. Comes to rest about the 22. Good for 7 to 8. John Beaton and Randy Rhino finally pinned him down there. 7:37 left in the game.
Again, Don, that's the same area that Franklin had problems with, right where second base is replaced for the ball games. And maybe it's a little slippery down there in that one particular area where they put those patches in, where usually the bases are for the baseball.
Lumsden collects a first down for Toronto. Down to the 15. John Beaton stopped him. 7:09 left now, but the Toronto Argonauts on the march, already in possession of a 20-6 lead here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Well, the Alouettes will have to hurry up and get ready for the Ottawa Rough Riders on Sunday, and CBC Television will have that game for our Eastern viewers. While in the West, Saskatchewan Rough Riders and Winnipeg Blue Bombers meet again at Winnipeg Stadium, a rematch of yesterday's Saskatchewan win. Here's Chuck Ely from the 15-yard line. The Argonauts with the first down. McGraw gets hit early and doesn't get very much, about a yard. Tony Proudfoot cut him down. 6 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. Toronto 20, Montreal 6. The Alouettes getting very close to their first loss in 8 regular season CFL games. McGraw's 9 for 9, but that's not the kind of stat you're proud of.
Well, Lumsden has been the big ball carrier for them today. They've gone to the fullback offense, and he's done, I think, a real good job for them.
Linterman heads right, even left. Here's the draw to the fullback. Lumsden at the 10, getting down to the Montreal 8-yard line. The ball came loose. It goes to the Alouettes.
Well, that's the way you get burned. I just say he's doing a good job, and he fumbles the ball on me.
The Alouettes save themselves insurance points. Toronto was pointing toward. Carl Cornell came in to recover the ball. There he is, number 72. And the fans here in Montreal see him on the scoreboard.
Well, Ely going back with a good call here. We see Harris going back looking for the pass, and he goes to draw with Lumsden. Lumsden comes back to the inside here. He starts outside, comes back in here, and he just loses the ball as he goes into the pylon.
Out of bounds is Brock Ainsley. Harris throwing him out. It's a Montreal first down as they get a drive going here deep at the run end of the field. Montreal has coughed the ball up 4 times. Toronto now 3 in this game. There it is. Always an important factor, but the Montreal turnover that hurt the most was the interception by Eric Harris. Ian Mofford out to the 31-yard line. We saw John O'Leary in the second quarter, but we haven't seen much of him lately. Richard Lewis and Granny Liggins made the tackle on his replacement, Ian Mofford. 5 minutes and 19 seconds remaining. Toronto 20, Montreal 6. Rick Galvos, the former Calgary Stampeder, is close to a first down out to the 35. And Linterman having a rest on his helmet at the Argonaut bench.
I can remember going into Calgary in 1969 after we played them in the Grey Cup in '68, and he was a rookie in '68. When we walked in there to our practice, Rudy Linterman was sitting outside the clubhouse shining his shoes. We couldn't believe that. Here's this blonde kid out there shining those shoes and making them pretty for the game that night.
Well, maybe he had a little business going on the side.
Maybe that was part of his contract.
Could be. First down from the 35-yard line. Wade makes another strike, and tumbling over the Argonaut bench is Brock Ainsley. He's all right.
Poussé en touche par le numéro 16, Eric Harris.
Well, Wade going back here, we see on the split screen, and Ainsley just doing the quick out, and Wade getting that front foot down and throwing that ball to him, and Ainsley really took a shot from number 16, Eric Harris, who ran that thing back 116 at the end of the half.
2nd and 3. They do not quite have the first down there. It was Ian Mofford, contained by Comet Burley, number 62. 4.5 minutes left. The Alouettes are 3rd down and 2. And 14 points behind. Marv Levy says we're going to have to go. Wade in for Barnes, who has a shoulder separation. Illegal procedure will be called against Montreal likely. A completion to Della Riva. But those linemen jumped too quickly, Russ. 2 flags have been thrown.
No question, we got flags all over the field. It was on the left side of that offensive line, and it might have been Dan Yoakum, but we'll see here now. There it is. Dan Yoakum moving back, and then Argonauts jumping, and they will be called for drawing him offside, but we see some pretty good headshots there by number 77, Wayne Smith, on Dan Yoakum, but I think that's Della Riva's first catch tonight, isn't it? His second one. Now Marv Levy has to make the decision, and he's going to punt the ball now with a 3rd and 7 situation. He does not want to give those points away, because if perchance there were any ties at the end of the season, the points for and against do count.
Also, if he punts here, the way these teams have been giving the ball away, he figures there's a chance Toronto could cough it up, put the pressure on them, make them hold on to the ball. Just under 4 minutes left now as Sonny Wade is set to kick. Burley getting through, but the punt is away. Rudy Linterman to the 40 to the 41-yard line of Toronto. Taken down by Chuck McMahon, number 33, a 42-yarder for Wade, a 10-yard run back for Linterman. 3:41, that is the time remaining in the fourth quarter here at the Olympic Stadium. The Alouettes, Marv Levy, just that much time away from his team's first loss in 8 regular season games. And part of the crowd here of over 69,000 begins a head start home, convinced the Alouettes can't come back. Let's see what happens. Even in motion left. Linterman comes this way, the right side, and that is Neil Lumsden getting through for about 5. Despite his fumble down around the 8-yard line, Lumsden has, Russ, had indeed a solid night of football offensively for the Argonauts. Marvin Davis tackled him there. Lumsden is 92 yards, just edging in on the 100-yard mark tonight. That's in 11 carries.
Well, he's had a lot of minor injuries again this year. We mentioned Mark Bragagnola was substituting for him throughout some of the early part of the season, and he's had some problems with his legs, and that's from running up. He cannot stand up and run with the ball. But we have an injury down there. Nick Mastaya, number 65, the left offensive tackle, as Chuck goes over to talk to Coach Leo Cahill. But Neil, I think, along with a couple other kids from Ottawa University, we have Harrison in Hamilton, and we have the other football players playing out of Ottawa University with Murphy in Ottawa. So we've got 3 of them from Ottawa University playing fullback doing a certain job. Certainly good job. We'll be back in a moment with the score, Toronto 20 and the L 6.
There's Nick Mastaya trying to walk off a leg injury incurred on that last play as the Argonauts will carry on 2nd down and 6. Gene Clark will take his spot. McLean replacing Clark, and here's Chucky Lee getting hammered down by Wally Bono, but he's got a first down at center field.
Arrêté par John Beaton.
Ely, the only surviving first-string quarterback on either side tonight, as Joe Barnes went out earlier with a shoulder separation. And that will affect Montreal's planning for the Sunday game with the Ottawa Rough Riders. And certainly has affected them here in their comeback attempt with 2:40 left. Lumsden has nowhere to go in his bid to reach 100 yards, and he is whistled down with little or no gain near center field. Let's check in with Tom McKee, just back from West Germany.
Jawohl. This is Mastaya. They're taping up his right ankle. Actually, when he was on the field with the injury, they were looking at his left ankle. I talked to the trainer. He said, I don't know which one it is. I guess when you're hurt sometimes, you're hurt all over.
2nd down, about 9.5. Lumsden pops through there again to about the 50-yard line, getting 4.5 this time. So Lumsden on the night, we'll check with our statistician John Pickett, must be getting awfully close. He's 96 yards now. But the Argonauts are out of downs. They'll be punting with 2:06 left. In possession of a 20-6 lead. Touchdowns in the 2nd and 4th quarters. Field goals in the 1st and 3rd for their 20 points. Dennis Franklin had a brief fling at quarterback, but the Argonauts have really moved since Chucky Lee came back. Rhino and Harris down near the 5-yard line. And position about 5 yards below his average for the season in this game tonight. Kicks to Harris. 20-yard line. A flag is thrown. 2 of them down. Harris still going at the 45. 3 at the 50. Look out. Harris out of bounds at the 28-yard line of Toronto. But we do have 2 penalty markers on the field.
Nicky Harris, arrêté par Carl McLean, le numéro 52, pénalité sur le jeu.
Well, this is why Zenon's been kicking to the sideline a little bit tonight. Rhino did it to them in the first half, and here he kicks to Dickie Harris. We get called for the clip, and right there, number 23, Tony Proudfoot, it appeared, came into the picture, got the call on the clip, back around the 15-yard line, and that long gain by Dickie Harris is going to be called back, and Montreal is going to scrimmage probably from inside their 10-yard line.
And the fans don't like it, of course. It was a 63-yard return that is now erased by the clipping penalty. Marv Levy's team really hasn't had too many breaks tonight, but when you throw a clip and you're caught, well, you're creating a break against yourself. 1:31 remaining. It's 20-6 as Levy is almost resigned now to his first loss of the season. And that is Rick Galvos to about the 12-yard line, getting only a couple. There's Joe Barnes looking like a heavyweight contender waiting to go into the ring, but he's out of the football game instead with a separated shoulder.
2nd down, 7.
The Owls were in trouble when he left, but his departure really has hurt any comeback plans they might have had. Sonny Wade, though, trying to mount something, fires out to Larry Smith. And Larry Smith will have a first down out to about the 23-yard line with 1:13 left.
Well, Toronto's certainly ready to give up those short passes. They've got Montreal deep in their own end, and they'll let them run the clock out this way if they want to. They're not trying to get out of bounds to stop the clock. They're just working it downfield and now going into a hurry-up offense because the clock will continue to run.
Toronto closing in on their 3rd win of the season with a 2nd-place tie with the Ottawa Rough Riders. Here's Ian Mofford. Nettles has him after he bounced off Silvietta at the 27-yard line, and Argonaut slow getting up on the play is Jim Corrigal still sitting down between the 30 and the 35. There's big Corrigal, the defensive end. He had a big first half for Toronto, chasing Joe Barnes all over the place and catching him on a number of occasions.
The guy standing beside him, number 62, Ekamet Burley, has had quite an evening as well.
Indeed. Ray Nettles has stuck them more than once from his middle linebacker spot. But Corrigal is down and getting attention now. There's Bastaya shaken up earlier.
Well, Mofford coming out here now. We see Jim Corrigal coming in from behind, and it's actually, as we see, number 73, Silvietta, who actually almost cuts Jim Corrigal down and throws the block on him that hurt his ankle or his leg. But he has had ankle problems, and maybe again on this artificial turf, the cleats dug in, and he's aggravated it again.
Got a final from Exhibition Stadium. Bad news for the Blue Jays and their supporters. 11-2, the Red Sox won tonight. Carlton Fisk, a couple of home runs. He opened up with a grand slam in the first inning. 1:04 left. Don't forget, we'll have Major League Baseball 77 tomorrow night. The Red Sox and the Blue Jays for you on the full CBC network from Toronto.
Well, I'm sure that's going to tighten up that American League race with the Yankees with them winning those 3 games.
Well, there's Calvin Kirk. He's caught the only offensive touchdown scored by the Argos tonight. Leo Cahill's got to be satisfied about the way first his defense contained Marv Levy's Alouettes, and then how the offense produced the points when they needed them. Now, Levy, as we say, will build his offense likely around this man, Sonny Wade, for Ottawa on Sunday. Ian Mofford had it slipped by him. It is incomplete. It's going to be 3rd down Alouettes with 57 seconds left. And we can now once again, for the first time tonight, really see the color of the seats here at the Olympic Stadium. Yellow and blue, because they've been vacated by many in this crowd of over 69,000, a Canadian Football League record crowd. Joe Barnes has had enough, and he'll go out. You see him favoring that left side, separated shoulder. Sonny Wade, his replacement, pitching out now to Archie Gray at the 40-yard line. Gray to the 45 for a Montreal first down. The Montreal offense tonight consists of 123 yards rushing and a total of 106 yards through the air. They've had 10 penalties for 100 yards, but they've given the ball up 4 times, and it's been costly. There's the newcomer, Archie Gray. Ian Mofford breaks 1 tackle from Nettles and gets down inside the 12 or 50-yard line. A gain of 16 yards and a Montreal first down with now 40 seconds remaining. Don't forget, we'll talk to some of the players who are instrumental in this game going the way it has with Tom McKee and bring you up to date on what's happening in the CFL. So don't go away. Stay with us for our post-game show. Wade to Galvos, and Galvos reaches the 45-yard line, a gain of 5, with now 33 seconds remaining.
2nd down, 5, Montreal.
This is an impressive-looking victory for Toronto, Russ, when you consider they're coming off that disaster in British Columbia. losing to the Lions 30-0. A completion at the 35-yard line for Larry Smith. And now taking on the only unbeaten team in the CFL and handling them pretty well tonight, the Montreal Alouettes. Wayne Smith, who had a knee hurt earlier, is getting up slowly and now makes his way back to the Argonaut defensive line. 26 seconds remaining. Wade pressing for one quick touchdown if he can get it. 2 flags down. This is complete to Smith. Out of bounds at the Toronto 19.
Well, we've got too many players on here. I think Toronto, Granny Liggins came in, and the offensive player, the defensive player didn't get out. But from ground level, we see here Gray turning to the outside and hitting number 36 Smith, and he's getting out of bounds now to stop the clock. We'll probably have the penalty decline, but Toronto just had too many men on the field as Granny came in and forgot to tell somebody to go out.
It has been declined. There's Leo Cahill's CFL coaching record back in 1977. After getting as close as the 14-yard line in a Grey Cup game before losing it in 1971.
Against those Calgary Stampeders.
Complete to Peter De La Riva. Good catch and a hard tackle thrown on him around the 3-yard line. That was number 26 for the Argonauts, Mike Thomas, that saved the touchdown. They have 1 second remaining.
While the Montreal Alouettes, we see Del Riva going downfield here. Wade is throwing the ball, and he's really hit here as he makes the reception by number 26, Mike Thomas. But Montreal now with 1 second to go are back in the huddle on the 3-yard line. They want to try and score the touchdown because they want to make sure everybody knows what's going on to get them closer in case points are important later on.
Sonny Wade is 11 for 12 in passing since he's come on for Joe Barnes at 100 yards. That's respectable for a guy that really hasn't played much for Marv Levy's Alouettes.
Well, we also have to respect the fact that Toronto has been giving up that short pass in this last drive when they started from inside their 10-yard line. They were content to let them go downfield, run the clock out. They have the game in hand. But it certainly looks good for Sonny, and it's good for his, I feel, his confidence, especially when he knows he's probably going to have to play this Saturday against the Ottawa Rough Riders.
You know the history of Sonny Wade. The more they get down on him, the least they expect of him, the better he plays over the years. He's had his ups and downs as Montreal quarterback. Tonight, one of his finer moments in relief of Joe Barnes.
Well, we got people going in and out here. Now Ray Nettles is heading to the bench, and someone else is coming in for Toronto.
We're having a little meeting with Lamar Leachman, the assistant coach, over near center field. Alouettes are coming over the ball, and Nettles is way back of the Montreal huddle. So they're having a little trouble getting this final play in.
Well, both the coaches really involved here, and one of the officials is over talking to Leo. We don't see him here now, but there certainly is a controversy with just about everybody in the Argonaut bench, the coaching staff involved. George Myra there, and George Dickinson, the offensive line coach. Wally Highsmith back there, who's been on the injured list for some time.
12 seconds on the clock it is. They were worried about the time. It's dumped out by Mopper. The time went down to 1 second. Then it was put back to 12. That would tend to upset the visiting coach.
I think that's why the official went over to tell Coach Cahill that they were going to put 11 seconds back on the clock. Where they lost it, I'm not sure, but they still have 8 seconds now, and the clock will stop with the incompleted pass. And things are getting a little heated down there on the field as well.
It's going to be second down at the 3-yard line if they ever have a second down. Referee Bill Dell now is coming out to indicate illegal interference against Toronto. So that is going to take Montreal a little closer.
And they'll have a first down if it's important.
A yard and a half in, half the distance of the 1.5-yard line. Here's Wade into the end zone. Yes, touchdown, Peter De La Riva.
That's the same play they ended the first half with, except Harris took it and went 116 yards with it. Little cross pattern between Brock Ainsley and Peter De La Riva. And he now makes his 43rd touchdown catch, which actually gives him a new Alouette record. Hal Patterson had 42 touchdown catches while he was an Alouette, and Peter De La Riva now has 43, and they've just thrown the ball off to the the sideline for him to keep. And here we'll see it. Again, the same pattern that they threw late in the half when Barnes threw the interception. A crossing pattern between number 19 and 74.
They're going for the two-point conversion, and it's through the hands of Ian Mofford, but a penalty marker is down. Boy, these Alouettes just don't quit. They've got 4 seconds on the clock. They're determined to get the ball back and do something with it. If they can get 2 points here, although, as you say, the total points at the end of the season, in the event of any ties, would be a factor.
Well, with 2 points and a short kickoff and 1 second left, who knows?
Not much of a chance, but a chance.
But it's a chance.
20-12 right now. These last 20 seconds have taken longer than 3 or 4 minutes of playing time. Well, the infraction must have been against the Montreal Alouettes. Whatever it may have been, we did not pick it up. Now they've given, it's against Toronto, they have given the points to Montreal. A 2-point conversion has been awarded by penalty.
Well, it must have been illegal interference on a pass receiver, certainly not the one they threw to, but another pass receiver in the end zone, and thus the 2 points is automatically awarded, and that is the rule when you attempt a 2-point conversion. Any pass interference automatically gives you the 2 points.
It wasn't against Mofford, or he was not victimized. He had a chance to catch the ball. It happened somewhere else in this mass confusion here in the final few seconds of the Olympic Stadium.
Well, we definitely know we're going to have a short kickoff here, Don, I believe.
4 seconds in which to do it, and if Montreal can recover to get a play away. It's 20-14. Argos lead by 6.
They're leaving such a big hole in the middle there. They better be careful Sweet doesn't dribble that ball down the center and run after it, because they're looking for him to kick it to the side.
Here's the attempt. It's got to go the 10 yards. It is going out of bounds, shouldered out of bounds there.
Now what is the call?
The Argonauts claim they touched it. The Alouettes claim they got a piece of it. It was awfully close to not going 10 yards, but the officials say the ball does go to the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, it was right in front of Marv Levy, and he's not complaining too much. That ball just went 10 yards, and we see a happy Argonaut bench and coaching staff.
But it shows you what a outstanding team and the attitude that Montreal has in attempting to come back like this and win the ball game. A lot of teams 2 touchdowns down wouldn't have pressed as hard for the touchdown they just scored, let alone the attempt to come back and get one more chance.
Well, especially when you lose your first-string quarterback, it's got to take a lot of momentum out of your offense. It's been built around that person throughout the entire preseason, through the preseason games, and through the first 7 games, which they won. And they have come back under Sonny Wade, and I think it's got to be a positive aspect for them going into Ottawa on Sunday.
There's Peter Della Riva with that 43rd career touchdown catch for Montreal, setting an Alouette team record. The Argonauts will ground the ball, and time finally has run out, and there is the gun. Toronto hangs on to a 20-14 victory, the first loss of 1977 for the Montreal Alouettes, who now go to 7-1, but they maintain an 8-point lead over Ottawa and Toronto, as the Rough Riders and the Argonauts share second place, with the Hamilton Tiger Cats now last, 1 game behind with 4 points. Well, it's been quite a night here, a record crowd in the Olympic Stadium. We'll be right back. The game is over. The final score is Toronto 20, Montreal 14.
Hi, I'm Tony Kubek, and tomorrow night our telecast will come to you from Toronto, where the Blue Jays meet the Boston Red Sox with such sluggers as Carl Yastrzemski, Jim Rice, and George Scott. So we'll hope you'll join Tom McKee, Don Chevery, and myself for our telecast right here on CBC.
Hello again, everybody. Tom McKee back at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal, and the Toronto Argonauts held on to defeat the Montreal Alouettes, suffering their first defeat of the season by a score of 20-14. And I still say it was a defensive football game, basically from beginning to end, and I think that Jim Corrigal would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree very much with that, Tom. We came into this game prepared very well defensively for the Montreal offense, you know, the type that they like to throw at us, especially in their whole offense as far as we were concerned was Joe Barnes. And if we shut down Joe's running and passing ability, we're going to shut down the Montreal Alouettes, and consequently I think that's just what we did.
Well, we've seen Jim Corrigal play a lot of football, but we've never seen him quite fired up the way he was tonight.
Well, it's for a lot of reasons, Tom. I was kind of upset with myself for many reasons, and I was kind of upset with a lot of other people, and I think the combination of the both kind of changed my attitude with regards to, the second half of this season, with the Toronto Argonauts, and I hope our winning streak continues.
Well, I guess you must feel, though, some responsibility on your shoulders when the season goes like this, because there were so many very, very close games.
Yes, there were a lot of close games, Tom, and consequently, funny, the closer we got to winning, the more problems we seemed to encounter. But finally, it's starting to all work for us, and hopefully we're going to start out on the right track as we did tonight.
Are you one of those people that can believe that one play like, well, go back to Eric Harris's interception right near the end. Do you think that can change not only a game, but indeed a season?
Well, I don't think it can change the season, but I think it can change the tempo of a football game, and situations like that do arise do change the whole complex of the game. And, it motivates the players who are participating, especially the players that are on, say, the individual who turns over the big play.
Well, I guess you'll have a little happier plane ride back to Toronto tonight.
Oh, let's hope so, Tom.
Because you've had some long trips this year. Thanks, Jimmy, for talking with us. Hello there. Ray Nettles, come on in here and sit down. You deserve a sit down after a game like that. This is the man that calls the defensive signals as far as the Toronto Argonauts are concerned. Let's talk a little bit, Ray, about what the strategy was before you went into the game. You certainly had the linebackers and your ends moving around quite a bit.
Well, just like Jimmy said, last time we played Montreal, they had 136 yards rushing, and 100 was by Jimmy Barnes. So we figured if we take away his scrambling, and his dash stuff and running the ball and pulling it down and running it, and the linebackers dropped off, we figured if we could take it away from them, that 100 yards right there, which gave them a lot of good first downs when we played them the first time, that we could probably be in better shape for winning the ball game. And that was the key thing, and we figured we could handle the passing game and the running game itself, but Barnes himself is what we had to contain, and that's what we were trying to do, and it seemed to work.
Now, he got away on you a couple of times. Was there any time that you thought you were losing this?
No, I never felt like we were actually ever losing the game. You get a little worried when the score starts coming back at you, but we just had to win this game, and we worked hard all week, and the feeling was there all week. And defensively, we've been playing some good ball games, and even though we've had the record we're pretty second in the league in defense, so we still had our own self-pride about ourselves on defense, and offense was young, and they're coming along and they're learning more every game. So it was just a matter of the feeling was there all week, and we just kind of came here figuring we were going to win.
Did they throw any special wrinkles at you after halftime?
Well, not really. When they brought Wade in, we didn't expect any, dashes or sprints by Wade, because he's more of a drop-back quarterback. So we changed our defense up a little bit, but we didn't think they were going to try to change anything special for that second half.
Well, we've talked to a lot of the defensive stars, or at least a couple of them tonight, along with Eric Harris at the beginning of the third quarter. He was the man that pulled off that great interception and finally got a major on the scoreboard, the first major of the game, as a matter of fact. Let's move over to offense and see what happened there. Chuck Ely is with us. How are you, fella?
Kind of tired, but I feel pretty good after that.
How's the shoulder, by the way? We want to ask you about that first.
The shoulder's still sore. It's just one of those things that you have to sort of play with. I guess, it still separates, so it's just sometimes I get hit on it and it hurts, and other times I don't get hit.
We watched you warming up there. First of all, was this just a coaching decision to take you out, or was it aggravated further in the game? Were you hurting at all, or was it just Coach Cahill's idea to try to get a little something stirred up?
Well, he didn't take me out because I was hurting. I think he took me out because I wasn't moving as consistent as he probably liked me to. So it wasn't anything about any pain or injury that caused me to come out. I guess he wanted me to come out and take a look at things from the sideline and go back in. So
we took a look at you when you were warming up, though, and you really, when you're throwing the ball, it must be bothering you because you really have to turn your body and kind of push the ball out, right?
Well, what happened was I fell on the other arm on one pass, but it wasn't anything that I was just trying to make sure it didn't tighten up, and it wasn't anything that's any serious. It was just a matter of shaking it off after a while, and I just kept trying to throw and twist it out, and it was kind of kinky like a cramp in there, but it's okay.
Chuck, you've been down on the floor before, and you've bounced right back up. The Argonauts looked as if they were going to go into one of their tailspins for the entire season this year, but now you're at the halfway mark, and this is a pretty good positive step to kick off the other 8 games.
Well, yeah, we had to win this, like Ray said. This situation that we came in with knowing that Ottawa won and that Montreal was so far ahead of us that we had to sort of stay in the middle of the pack, if not be able to catch up with Montreal. And we knew we had to play them 3 out of our next 4 games, and we had to start off on a winning track and help some of the younger ball players on the team get a little positive attitude about even playing them. And it was an important game, this particular game, for us to win up here in front of that many people, you know, and they were against you in that situation, and to come out on a victory.
Marv Levy said before tonight's game that they have to have these 70,000, 65,000, 60,000 people behind them. I think it helped the Toronto Argonauts.
Well, yeah, I think so. I personally felt like, you know, they were all against us, and that it would be a great challenge just to go out there and do a good job against them with that many people. It was the first time many of the guys that played in that stadium, including myself, and it was quite an exciting feeling just to come out there in that field and play.
Okay, Chuck, congratulations. Nice game. Have a good second half of the season. Let's go back up to the broadcast booth. Here's Don Chevrier. Don?
All right, Tom, you know, I was in Taylor Field yesterday, and this Olympic Stadium is cleared out faster since this game ended than Taylor Field did, and it's a much smaller facility out there. It's used, of course, for football since the Olympics and for baseball. And Tom McKee now has a look at how things are changed around and how this stadium functions in '77.
For almost a decade, the Montreal Expos of the National Baseball League used Park Gerry as their home park. Since then, they have moved into Olympic Stadium, and this is now their home field, where all the major league teams from across North America come to play. This is not only the home of the Montreal Expos, however, it is also the home of Major League Football. The Canadian Football League Montreal Alouettes have also moved into Olympic Stadium. They did so last fall, and they are almost finished one complete season. It is also the home of various other things, like rock concerts, political rallies, and religious ceremonies. The manager of this huge complex is Jean Lebay. Monsieur Lebay, from the very beginning, the design of this stadium has been for an all-purpose facility, right?
That's absolutely right, Tom.
Have they taken into consideration every conceivable thing that might take place here?
They have. We could go right ahead now and have some track and field competition, baseball, football, soccer, any type of rock concert, or anything like that, or even a circus, as a matter of fact.
Has the stadium changed very much from those days when we remember it from the Olympics of last year?
It has changed quite a bit, yes. We've torn down the temporary seatings that we had, and we've built some permanent seats that could be moved from one end to the other, depending on the position, whether it's baseball or football.
Okay, now for the final closing ceremonies of the Olympics, we almost had 100,000 people in the stadium. Is it possible to put that many people in now?
No, I don't think it would be possible. The highest we could go right now is for rock concerts. If we have a crowd.